about God's Word and draws attention to the need for good soil in order to bear fruit. This question of good soil motivates and challenges every Christian parent. Can good soil be nurtured in the lives of our children? A similar question was asked by the ancient Greeks concerning virtue. Drawing upon classical traditions like the Trivium and the liberal arts, classical Christian schools are coming alongside Christian parents to do just that, nurture good soil and virtue. Now in our 8th year serving Jackson County, Knox Academy, the Rogue Valley's own K-12 classical Christian school, is relocating to downtown Medford in order to better assist parents as they educate their children. We are currently enrolling students for the 25-26 school year. Visit us at knoxmedford.com for more information. Invest in a future with a strong connection to the past for good soil, deep roots, and fruit at knoxmedford.com.
Bulls, bears, and other market beasts. How can you be sure they won't eat your investments alive? I'm Michelle Slate. Lighthouse Financial shines guiding light on retirement, investing, and insurance. As you navigate the stormy seas of investing, Lighthouse stands out as a beacon of hope, offering you wise counsel and biblically responsible investing. Lighthouse Financial. Call us today, 541-494-1034.
What happens when people hear an audio Bible in their own language for the very first time?
I still remember an old man in the village. We just finished the Bible, we have it in audio. It's the story of Jesus Christ, the Son of God. Would you like to listen? And the old man, 94 years old, said, I have never heard of Jesus Christ, the Son of God. That day he did, that day he accepted Christ.
Join me for the John Ankerberg Show weekdays at 4 o'clock right here on the Dove TV. It'll be encouraging and informative.
You're watching the Dove TV, encouraging and informative for Monterey and the Central California coast. Seen on Channel 14 and these Dove TV affiliates.
We build them up for an hour. Then we determine whether or not we're going to go another hour. So we won't make that decision for about another 55 minutes or so.
Hang with us, you'll see.
All right, good morning to you. Happy Wednesday. A lot going on in the news. There always is. What a time in the Middle East. You know, when big things happen, one of my habits is to go to all the various news outlets to see how it's being reported.
Yeah.
It is amazing.
Yeah.
It is absolutely amazing because it is so biased,
It is
quite frankly, on both sides.
And it's so different.
And it's so different.
Yeah.
And you read these news things and you kind of go, what in the world? I mean, you got the President of the United States right smack in the Middle East there, making deals.
Right. Yeah. Making deals.
I mean, the first thing that comes out of this is a deal, and then the other things like, oh, maybe you want to join the Accord. Okay, well, we can open up that door.
Right.
Can you bring a few of your other countries with you? I mean, this is historic stuff, and I don't know. You may not like Trump. I get it if you don't, but the point being is you can't ignore what's being done here. It is unbelievable.
Exactly. You cannot ignore the force at which this guy is storming through relationships and the world situations. It's amazing.
He took the young crown prince yesterday.
Yeah.
He's there, and it was really cool. He was escorted in by a bunch of camels. There's the beast, surrounded by a bunch of camels.
Yeah.
I guess the purple carpet is equivalent to the red carpet here.
I was wondering about that. Okay.
Purple is royalty.
Right. Right.
So anyway, all this is going on. The pomp and the circus. It's just a hoot to watch. I really enjoy it. To see the various customs of various countries. And you got to honor it. You got to respect it. You may not get it, but you have to respect it. And so he makes a deal. And here comes this young crown prince of Saudi Arabia. And at the end of the day, I think what he did was he validated that young man for being the crown prince.
Yeah, I think you're
in front of his own people and in front of the world stage.
Yes.
Then he walks away with a deal.
Yeah.
By the way, on his way out last night, they're shaking hands and saying goodbye. I think it was Qatar, though. Maybe it wasn't Saudi Arabia. I got to get my country straight here.
Okay.
He looks up and he says, "Oh, that's such and such a ceiling. Boy, you guys did a good job on that."
Always the developer, huh?
You got to be kidding me. Anyway, a lot on that. We'll have more of it coming your way in a minute. What's up?
Well, first of all, this is a big day. It's National Decency Day, celebrating the basic standard of civility that every American deserves. Decency is a nonpartisan grassroots movement launched to inspire decency in everyday life in both conversations and actions, especially when you're driving to work. Look out. You got a left lane Gomer in front of you?
Oh, yeah.
Hey, have some patience. Slow down.
Yeah.
But, this is a good call, American, for us to be decent. I would especially apply this to social media. It seems as though, people just, when they start posting things, it's, please excuse my French.
Yeah.
I always refer to it as people puke out on...
Oh, puke.
Oh, yeah, they puke out on social media. It's like, would you like to have that back?
Well, I think what it is, we all live in our bubbles.
Yeah.
And we're secure in our bubbles.
Right.
I think we need to understand something about a bubble.
Okay.
And I'm going to say this carefully.
All right.
But a bubble is Satan's trap. Because the way Satan works is you live in your bubble, you never called on anything, you're getting away with it, and then all of a sudden he pulls the string.
Yes. Yes.
Look outside your bubble.
Yeah, that's interesting.
But I'm with you. I reach some social stuff. I have to stay away from it for various reasons. But what I do check in, I'm looking at, you posted that, you said that?
Right.
Wow.
Yeah, and people, for some reason, feel more comfortable saying things in a social media setting than they would eyeball to eyeball. I don't get that.
Yeah.
Anyway. So it makes you want to go underground.
Well, be decent.
Yeah, but it's a day dedicated to decency.
Start a revival by doing good.
Right. If you can't do it, go underground, because it's National Underground America Day, recognizing check this out, approximately 6,000 people who live in some form of underground architecture across North America. I didn't realize that. Some of it makes sense, because subterranean living boasts energy conservation as one of its top advantages.
Well, didn't the Hobbit live underground?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Had a grass hut somewhere?
Yeah, enjoy your time. Come out for a little air once in a while, a little sunshine. Also, it is, here we go, National Receptionists Day. Oh. Receptionists are responsible for providing an excellent first impression to all customers in person and on the phone, and our hats off to all receptionists. You know if you have a good one.
Yep.
And that is the truth. National Third Shift Workers Day.
Third shift?
Third shift, recognizing the workers who face the night to keep businesses running, hospitals staffed, and streets safe. We know that we're protected out there in the middle of the night. It's also known as National Night Shift Workers Day. And I would say if that's Third Shift Workers Day, we're first shift.
I guess we are.
We're first, right?
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, not a lot of people get up at 3:30 in the morning and come to work.
No. But the only thing I can say about people who sleep in,
tell me.
Well, remember, manna came in the morning. It didn't come at the crack of noon.
That's true. Okay. And only one, speaking of manna, what is it? And we only have one thing to eat. It's National Buttermilk Biscuit Day. Ooh. Yeah, it's a great food. You can have it on the side of your eggs or whatever you're having for breakfast, but a great thing is obviously biscuits and gravy. Before the Civil War, biscuits emerged as an inexpensive addition to meals. This sturdier bread product soon became popular as people realized it absorbed the gravy on their plate better than plain bread. Soon, a new family favorite, biscuits and gravy, was created. I will never forget the first time I ever saw somebody eat biscuits and gravy. I was repulsed. And then I tried it.
And then
I was hooked. And I've been hooked since.
It's grease and sausage.
Oh, and it's so good. Tabasco, any kind of hot sauce, Frank's, whatever you want on top.
I have to stay away from it.
Oh, it's good. It's good. Yeah.
It doesn't like me.
Oh, really?
I like it. Oh. But it doesn't like me. Oh. But, like you go to these little country cafes as you're driving around. You pull off the side of the road and you have, Susie's bacon and eggs or something like that. And here comes this order of biscuits and gravy, which is the meal itself.
It is a meal in itself. Oh, yep.
And sitting there and watching a truck driver about the size of this table take it down.
I got to tell you, it's one of the breakfast dishes that I am good at preparing. I can make biscuits and gravy with the best of them. The only thing I don't have is I don't have homemade biscuits. I do those. You pop, little Pillsbury Doughboy pops out, and I take those guys. But I need a good homemade biscuits recipe or a gift.
Well, I'll tell you what. A little bit of a look forward.
Okay.
Okay. Once our kitchen gets put back in.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe we could persuade Peggy to come over and make some homemade biscuits, or maybe better yet, teach you on the air how to make them.
That would be wonderful. Anything that Peggy makes is great.
So you can make it. And so,
yeah.
So that means I'd have to do that hour by myself, but I can survive.
Okay. Well, only one fun fact this morning. Did you know that a single strand of spaghetti is called spaghetto? Spaghetto. That's it. So the plural version of spaghetto, if you have multiple strands, it's spaghetti. One is a spaghetto.
Oh. Really?
There's a bit of useless information for your day. Enjoy your spaghetto. Spaghetto. And when I find these things, I go and Google them. I say, is this really real?
Yeah.
Is this true? It is. It's spaghetto.
Spaghetto.
Yeah.
That reminds me of the guy that does the weather here. One string.
With a broad low-pressure system moving over the top of our region, today in northern Oregon and southern Washington, cloudy with a chance of showers, gradually becoming mostly sunny with highs in the mid-60s for Vancouver, Portland, Wilsonville, and McMinnville. Continuing down the Willamette Valley, cloudy with a chance of showers, gradually becoming mostly sunny with daytime highs near 64 in Salem and Albany and 63 in Corvallis and Eugene. In central Oregon, partly sunny with daytime highs in the low 60s around Prineville and mid to upper 50s in Bend and Sun River. Mostly sunny and breezy around Boise, Idaho with high temperatures in the mid to upper 60s. Along the Oregon coast, a slight chance of showers, then mostly sunny, breezy and near 60 in Coos Bay and 58 in Port Orford. Becoming sunny, breezy in mid to upper 50s for Brookings and Crescent City, California. In southern Oregon, mostly sunny with highs in the upper 60s for Grants Pass and Medford and mid-60s in Ashland with a light northwest wind. In the Klamath Basin, sunny and low 60s. Into northern California, mostly sunny with a high near 64 in Wairika. Sunny in upper 70s in Redding and near 80 in Chico and Sacramento with a calm wind becoming northwest around 6 miles per hour. In the Bay Area, patchy early morning fog, then sunny in mid-70s for Santa Rosa and Napa. Sunny in San Francisco with a high near 67. And today in San Jose, some early patchy fog, then sunny and near 77. It's a snapshot of your Wednesday weather on the Dove.
Okay, well, there it is. One of those beautiful mornings on the east side of the valley. Actually, that is looking, obviously, north. You can see the broadcast tower, one of them there. And there it is with the sun coming up.
Beautiful morning.
Beautiful morning.
Yeah.
Absolutely gorgeous.
A little cooler today. Things are sprouting out. Springtime, boy, it is bursting out around us.
Yeah, look behind us. Those all popped out overnight.
They're beautiful. Yeah. Well, it is National Decency Day, and part of that comes in with that thing called patience. And it's an area that oftentimes we get tested, but Dr. David Jeremiah encourages us with how patient God is with us.
God is good, and He's patient with us. We see God's goodness and generosity in His incredible patience with us. In fact, in the Bible, the idea of God's patience is frequently linked to the idea of His goodness. Psalm 100 verses 4 and 5 says, "Be thankful to Him and bless His name, for the Lord is good, and His mercy is everlasting." God never runs out of mercy. He's a good God. The mercy of God represents His patience. All the blessings of God can be organized, men and women, under two headings: the grace of God and the mercy of God. The grace of God is everything God gives you that you don't deserve, and the mercy of God is everything God withholds from you that you do deserve. How many can give a happy amen that God is both gracious and merciful? His patience, His mercy never runs out. His mercy endures throughout all generations.
Amen.
Amen to that.
Yeah.
Well, here's a question. Can you give God 3 minutes a day?
Now that's a big question. Yeah. Yeah. Just 3?
Well, you know, we live in a fast-paced world.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we're assuming that God is living at our pace, that somehow He understands our busyness, and that He's tracking with us. Well, He is.
Well, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But are you tracking with Him? So our Word for You Today organization, our devotional, in fact, the new ones have been mailed. We got them out a little early this month. So the new ones will start in June. We just published a little book, and we're testing it. I'll let you know down the road. And it is spend 3 minutes with God each day.
You know, that's a great point, Perry, because we're in such a fast-paced world. We know that people, especially of certain generations, they don't even take the time to listen to a whole song. Can you actually get through a whole prayer?
No. Well, see?
Yeah.
And when's the last time that you got down and you concentrated on God and you had all these other things hit your mind? And then you could pull this apart where it becomes critical, and I don't want to do that in the sense that, I mean, after all, can the Creator of everything get 3 minutes of your time every day?
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, why are we saying 3 minutes? Well, we figured it out when we surveyed people, because I sit on this board, international board. We figured it out that when you read this little portion of the devotion, it's 3 minose.
Oh, okay.
So the question is, we're trying a new marketing thing. Can you give God 3 minutes a day?
Give God 3 minutes. Okay.
Okay. And changing the verbiage of this thing, our response, the initial response has been pretty phenomenal because all of a sudden it put it into perspective. It only takes 3 minutes to read this. And by the way, if you're not getting this, part of our calling here at the Dove and the mission is the eyes, television, ears, radio, and in your hands with something printed, the Word for You Today. Millions of these are being printed around the world. I was just in a 4-hour international Zoom call yesterday.
Oh, no.
We had people from Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, Canada, England, and then myself. And I got reports all the way. It's really fascinating to hear what God's doing around the world. But this little book is being published in all those places. And we just gave several 100,000 up to the Ukraine and Russia border, giving them to the refugees and people just coming across the border and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So 3 minutes can change your life, and 3 minutes can change somebody else's life. So if you don't have this, we send it absolutely free, no obligation. We'll just send it to you. So get a hold of us at the Dove, and we'll do that. And if you want to ask for 2 copies, in case you want to give one away, come by and get it, or let us know. We'll send it to you.
All right.
How far? Oh, man, I went too far.
That's pretty good. No, not at all.
All right, 16 past the hour. Quick look at some other things. The president is hopping around the Middle East, making history. He went from Saudi Arabia over to Qatar, but before he left Saudi Arabia, they did a massive $142 billion deal. What it is that apparently Saudi Arabia is going to buy $142 billion of American-made military equipment. And in exchange, some other things are going to go on with the deal. When they got it all done, I don't know how you come up with these numbers, but when they got it all done, it was $600 billion deal. And there are multi-billion-dollar commercial deals with Amazon, Oracle, AMD, Uber, Qualcomm, Johnson & Johnson, and many others, the president said, that God opened the door to Saudi Arabia. Now, Saudi Arabia has the high probability of being the next country joining the Abraham Accord.
That's interesting, yeah.
And that will put the ultimate squeeze on Iran. Now, the president's been very clear in all of his dealings that Iran can't have a nuke, and every time he mentions that in Saudi Arabia and in Qatar, he gets some applause, which is kind of mixed, over there.
Yeah.
So anyway, very successful. He's over in Qatar now, and we'll see where this is all going to end up because it is a little bit different country there. That's the one that wanted to give them the airplane.
Yeah, right.
They are not friendly with Israel. They're borderline not a good place. But he's trying to neutralize the Middle East through economics than political war deals.
Yeah.
So anyway, so far, I have to say this, it's been pretty successful. Pretty amazing. And the other thing is, I'll go back to a statement I made yesterday.
Okay.
It just shows you that it can be done.
Yeah, exactly right. And what is the left focusing on right now as all this is going on? A free jumbo jet.
Yeah,
Isn't that interesting?
Look, the only thing they have is they somehow have to continue to demonize President Trump.
Yeah.
You know what they ought to do? If I was to be the James Carville of...
Yeah.
I'd
Okay.
tell them, shut up and regroup.
Yeah.
Just shut up and regroup. Take these next 3 years and get into a think tank, come up with a leader, come up with a bit different message. Otherwise, you guys are just completely falling apart.
Yeah.
You split yourself down the middle. But anyway.
Right.
This is kind of interesting. A judge upholds President Trump's authority to deport criminal migrants under the Alien Enemies Act. Now, you remember he had other judges saying, no, he can't do that.
Right, yeah.
Well, another judge comes in and says, yeah, he can. So I don't know who ends up being the winner here, but apparently this judge preempts the other two judges, and Representative Chip Roy explains it.
This important ruling from the Supreme Court reset the table with respect to the activism, the blatant activism by Boasberg. Now, let's keep in mind what the court said. The court said that, look, he had no business doing this from the District of Columbia. This is a flight that was originating in Texas to remove people that are being rightfully removed because they're a danger to our country. Now, pause for a second. How do I know that they're a danger to our country, Harris? 47 people affiliated with Tren de Aragua were just caught literally in Dripping Springs, Texas, not far from where I live. This is a real issue throughout Texas because of the absolute devastation that the Biden administration wreaked upon the United States and its people. So now President Trump is doing the right thing to remove these dangerous gang members. And this activist judge inserted himself. Now, the good news is the Supreme Court said, no, you don't get to do that. This should have been done in Texas, and there's a process for doing this, and the law is good law. My concern is that Amy Coney Barrett didn't follow the majority. So there was one that voted the wrong way. My other concern is that they said there needs to be a reasonable time for these folks to be able to go appeal their case, which means it's going to go back to habeas cases, which means there's going to be a churn on these cases. So it's good news, but it's not something that we should take to the bank without changing. That's why, as the chairman of the Constitution Subcommittee, we had a hearing about legislation that we need to move through the House to limit some of the abuses that are taking place with these nationwide injunctions by these rogue judges.
Well, so bottom line, it's not over.
Right.
You know, it's going to be a tug of war, right? But I think he's going to fight this all 4 years.
Absolutely.
The question is, will the Judiciary Committee in the House and in the Senate take up some legislation to, to reel in these rogue judges? And will the Supreme Court ultimately get involved to the merits of the case? And that is, all this has to do with national security.
Right.
So the due process thing is still very argumentative. I mean, I got, when we talked about it yesterday, sure enough, boom, here comes some emails. Okay. And, both sides of the story. Okay, so all right. All persons, here's what the Supreme Court needs to weigh in on.
What?
Does all persons mean anybody that's in the country, or does it mean just citizens?
That is the question, isn't it? Yeah.
Because if they broke the law to get here, which means they already forfeited due process, because now they're a criminal.
Yes.
And then they come into the country and they break other laws.
Right.
What due process do they have as a criminal?
Yeah.
A non-citizen criminal. I mean, it compounds itself. So we'll see what happens. All right. The other story is Wickoff. He's the guy that's running around, kind of heading up the president's worldwide peace negotiation guy. He's doing a great job. He's now over in Turkey dealing with Russia and Ukraine. The president said very clearly this morning that if need be tomorrow, if Putin shows up in Turkey to talk about some kind of a settlement between Russia and Ukraine, that the president would interrupt the trip and go there.
Really?
Yeah. Now, he says, I'm pretty much, booked out
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But if Putin really wants me there, and it means, serious talks, I probably will come.
Well, we know that Zelensky kind of wants him there, doesn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Zelensky say he's willing to talk directly with Putin under one condition: immediate ceasefire.
Oh.
Which to me is not a bad request.
Yeah. Yeah.
How can you talk to somebody that's shooting your people?
That you're shooting at. Yeah.
So out of all of this Middle East tour, the question is, how many more nations over the next couple of weeks or months will join the Abraham Accord? Will Saudi Arabia join? Will the United Arab Emirates join? The president's got his eyes on dealing with Syria and unwinding the bad people there. That could push Turkey back out, which means that Syria could come back to its own country, which means refugees that have left the country could come back and restore the country if they can get the bad people out and get Turkey out of it.
Yeah.
And that means it would be pushing Iran out. So we'll see. But those in the Abraham Accord pretty much are anti-Iran. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
I have this scripture in the back of my mind, and I'm going to paraphrase it, and I can't get rid of it, okay? It's in the back of my mind. I have no idea when this is. I am not an eschatology pro.
Okay.
I respect everybody's views.
All right.
I have mine, so if you want to know the truth, you can call me. There's 3, some say 4 views of eschatology. I just don't go there because it's too argumentative.
Yeah.
But there is a scripture: peace, peace, and then sudden destruction.
Oh.
What does that mean?
Oh. Yeah.
In today's world.
Yeah.
Peace, peace,
and then
sudden destruction.
Oh.
Is that a bomb?
What do you think? I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But we are making peace with countries that want to kill us.
Okay.
At the end of the day, the Islamic theology.
True.
You got to go down to the root of the thing, because they are a monarchy. Their religion, their military, and their government are all the same. That's a monarchy. And their religion drives it all. And their religion is based upon the Quran. And we are infidels.
Yeah, we are. Yeah.
So certainly Israel is, according to them.
Yeah.
They're the small Satan.
We're the big Satan.
We're the big Satan.
Right.
So I don't know. I just throw that out there. I'm not trying to be negative. I just can't shake that scripture from my head. Peace, 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 and then all of a sudden people say peace, 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 and then all of a sudden sudden destruction. What is that? Is that a bomb?
Yeah. What is that? And what and who gets the destruction applied to?
Yeah.
Who's going to be destroyed?
See, okay, all you eschatology pros out there, you're yelling at the camera or at the TV right now. Send it to Jerry. He's got more patience than I do. Okay, but it's an amazing thing to watch. What is that sudden? Now, let me offset that with this.
What?
How do you read Prophet Isaiah and not come away with the understanding that in spite of Israel's stubbornness at times, they are still God's chosen and he still delivers them?
Yeah.
And you could read Isaiah even in today's modern times, and there's parts of Isaiah, get into 38 to 30, 40, 41, 42, all the way up to 45. There's a common theme in there. I'm with you. Your enemy will not succeed.
Okay.
I'm with you. Your enemy will go down. You're going to grow flowers in the desert. Sand's going to turn to water. All of these things that are saying that I'm going to bless you.
Yeah.
Now, the Reconstructionists should tell you that's come and gone.
Oh, really?
Only man can mess up God's word. And we do a good job of it.
Yeah.
All right, so much for that. Boy, how did we dig that hole?
I don't know, but sometimes you got to dig.
What is today? What do we have? Biscuits and gravy. All right, we'll take a cardiology break. We'll be right back.
Exchange Co-op, where big ideas grow.
Stewardship begins with the knowledge that nothing belongs to us, but everything belongs to the Lord. This helps us to run a business not in the fear of lack, but in the assurance of His care and provision. Such a perspective eliminates the drive to sell and replaces it with a heart that says serve. This begins with serving our clients and coworkers with integrity and genuine care. That's why McKelly's is automotive service with a heart for God and treating others as we ourselves would want to be treated. Our promise is to never sell our clients anything we don't believe they need. Another is to do all we can to meet other needs, such as shuttle service and loaner cars, or taking the time to really listen, even at times praying with our customers. Sometimes this means sacrifice, going above and beyond, but that's why I work for Kelly's Automotive Service, honoring God while serving people with honesty and integrity.
Our goal at the Dove is to glorify God and help our audience connect more closely with Him. Something else we do here at the Dove is help connect our audience with reliable businesses and vice versa. Some call it advertising. Here at the Dove, we call it outreach. Connecting businesses with people they can help and our audience with reliable businesses for the help they need. If you'd like to reach out to our audience with your business or service, give us a call, 541-776-5368.
Okay, welcome back. Well, let's check in with CBN Newswatch. They'll give us the latest on what's happening in the Middle East, and there's a lot going on. CBN Newswatch, right here on the Dove.
This is CBN Newswatch.
It is Wednesday, May 14th. We begin this half hour in the Middle East, where President Trump, in addition to meeting with key leaders and once again sending a warning to Iran over its nuclear program, has also made a series of major economic and political moves that will have a major impact on the region, the U.S. and Israel. CBN Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell reports now from Jerusalem.
This morning in Saudi Arabia, President Trump met with Syria's new leader just one day after announcing he's lifting sanctions on the country. The move came amidst a flurry of other activity Tuesday when the president signed a deal worth hundreds of billions of dollars with the Saudi kingdom, encouraged the crown prince to recognize Israel, and issued a new warning to Iran. The deals with Saudi Arabia amount to about $600 billion, including a $142 billion arms agreement. At the Saudi Investor Conference, President Trump said he hopes Saudi Arabia will join the Abraham Accords.
It's my fervent hope, wish, and even my dream that Saudi Arabia, a place I have such respect for, especially over the last fairly short period of time, what you've been able to do, but we'll soon be joining the Abraham Accords. But it will be a special day in the Middle East with the whole world watching when Saudi Arabia joins us, and you'll be greatly honoring me, and you'll be greatly honoring all of those people that have fought so hard for the Middle East, and I really think it's going to be something special, but you'll do it in your own time.
He also criticized the regime in Tehran and blamed it for much of the turmoil in the Middle East.
The biggest and most destructive of these forces is the regime in Iran, which has caused unthinkable suffering in Syria, Lebanon, Gaza, Iraq, Yemen, and beyond.
And he issued an ultimatum.
I want to make a deal with Iran. If I can make a deal with Iran, I'll be very happy if we're going to make your region and the world a safer place. But if Iran's leadership rejects this olive branch and continues to attack their neighbors, then we will have no choice but to inflict massive maximum pressure, drive Iranian oil exports to zero like I did before, and take all action required to stop the regime from ever having a nuclear weapon. Iran will never have a nuclear weapon.
Trump also announced the U.S. has taken steps to normalize relations with Syria and will lift sanctions at the urging of Saudi Crown Prince bin Salman and Turkish President Erdogan. In his meeting with Syrian President al-Shara today, Trump encouraged him to join the Abraham Accords and to tell all foreign terrorists to leave Syria. However, some question if al-Shara, a former al-Qaeda commander, can be trusted.
He don't change. His speak may be moderate, but in particularly in facts, he is a radical Sunni man. I talked to people, all this radical group, they said we will make our country Islamic Republic.
Cito says minorities in Syria are fearful of the new government.
We need protection. All these countries supported radical Islam, radical Sunni groups in Syria. We are in fear. They have to help us to protect us for radical Islam.
And Chris Mitchell joins us now from Jerusalem with more. So, Chris, President Trump is asking 5 things of the president of Syria. What are they?
Well, it's a pretty strong list, Ephraim. First of all, to sign on to the Abraham Accords with Israel. Then the next one, he says, tell all foreign terrorists to leave Syria. Now, that's very difficult for many think for al-Shara to do, because many of those terrorists actually were brought in by him when they took over the Assad regime. The other thing is to deport Palestinian terrorists and then help the United States to prevent the resurgence of ISIS, and then assume a responsibility for ISIS detention centers in northeast Syria. And a lot of people are concerned about that because there's tens of thousands of ISIS prisoners that nobody really wants to have let loose inside Syria and the wider Middle East. So it's a lot to ask of a former al-Qaeda commander, and whether or not he can do this. And does this mean maybe deporting or turning his back on some of his own supporters? He walks a fine line between his new image that he's carefully cultivating with world leaders, including U.S. President Donald Trump, and the ones who helped make him come to power. So, and also one other question, and we talked with Kamal Cito about this, who's really in control of Syria? Is it Syria or is it Turkey? He was telling us that actually in Damascus, many of the leaders of the government now are Turkish. And so we don't know if President Erdogan really is casting a shadow over Syria right now, and who's actually in control.
That is so big by him sticking his nose into Syria and drawing those lines with those 5 points. That's a huge. He just took one of the biggest problems in the Middle East. He went right into the middle of it and blew it up. And so he's isolating Turkey and Syria, and it's certainly separating them from themselves. Now, if they choose not to go what President Trump is suggesting here and continue to work together, then they get thrown into the bundle with Iran. So you can see what he's doing. It's pretty remarkable. By the way, this is a special day. Thank you, Barb, for reminding me. This is a very special day. On this day in 1948 is when Israel became a nation. And if it wasn't for President Truman, who really literally stood up against all of his advisors, and when they won the war and they came out and declared their independence, it was President Truman that stood up and said, "Yep, I recognize them as a state."
You know, it's interesting. I was listening to a podcast this morning on the way in about Harry Truman, and it talked about this issue. And you know what he drew a lot upon for this decision was his faith in Christ. He thought he was a Bible-believing Christian.
Well, there you go. History being what it is, and does God control leaders and put them up and take them down?
Oh, man.
I mean, if anything comes out of Truman's presidency, it was this move right here.
He recognized Israel 11 minutes after they declared their independence.
There you go.
11 minutes.
Now, you know what's interesting about this? It goes back to a subject that we mentioned earlier, the subject called eschatology, which is the study of end times. Matthew deals with a generation that will not pass away until all these things are fulfilled. Did that generation start in 1948?
Great question.
Now, a lot of Bible scholars think that it did.
Okay.
I don't know. We can't be date setters here, but the point being, there is a generation. There is a generation on earth that will see the coming of the Lord. When did that generation start? Was it 1948, which was the budding of the fig tree?
Oh, wow.
Okay, send Jerry your comments. Right now, we're going to go to Spaghetti-O. No,
Spaghetto.
Spaghetto. He's doing the weather today.
With a broad low-pressure system moving over the top of our region, today in northern Oregon and southern Washington, cloudy with a chance of showers, gradually becoming mostly sunny with highs in the mid-60s for Vancouver, Portland, Wilsonville, and McMinnville. Continuing down the Willamette Valley, cloudy with a chance of showers, gradually becoming mostly sunny with daytime highs near 64 in Salem and Albany and 63 in Corvallis and Eugene. In central Oregon, partly sunny with daytime highs in the low 60s around Prineville and mid to upper 50s in Bend and Sun River, mostly sunny and breezy around Boise, Idaho with high temperatures in the mid to upper 60s. Along the Oregon coast, a slight chance of showers, then mostly sunny, breezy and near 60 in Coos Bay and 58 in Port Orford, becoming sunny, breezy in mid to upper 50s for Brookings and Crescent City, California. In southern Oregon, mostly sunny with highs in the upper 60s for Grants Pass and Medford and mid-60s in Ashland with a light northwest wind. In the Klamath Basin, sunny and low 60s. Into northern California, mostly sunny with a high near 64 in Wairika, sunny in upper 70s in Redding and near 80 in Chico and Sacramento with a calm wind becoming northwest around 6 miles per hour. In the Bay Area, patchy early morning fog, then sunny in mid-70s for Santa Rosa and Napa, sunny in San Francisco with a high near 67, and today in San Jose, some early patchy fog, then sunny and near 77. It's a snapshot of your Wednesday weather on the Dove.
Beautiful day in the neighborhood. There it is. Today we're going to get a lot of sunshine. Temperatures on the rise again, and that's a view from the east side of the valley at the south end. Now starting to slowly pan north. Absolutely beautiful.
You know, you mentioned sunshine today. We've had just a little bit of rain. It is that time of season. It's springtime where we're trying to, you know, we talk about ground cover. I'm trying to take back some of my ground cover and actually make grass there. Yeah.
You fertilizing it?
Well, I fertilized it. We had it seeded. I can't do anything, so we had a dude come in and do it.
Yeah.
And yesterday I was looking, and I said, Pam, look there's baby grass buds coming out of these things. Look at this. We might get grass.
Oh, there you go.
Okay, anyway, I'm excited.
Keep it wet.
I have to contain it, yeah.
All right. A couple quick stories. A little bit of story to the south of us, California. Well, the California, there in Sacramento, top insurance regulator said yesterday, that State Farm, they raised it.
No kidding.
I don't know what to say about this. They're calling it the blue tape problem down there.
What's that mean?
Normally, when you run into government problems, called red tape.
Red tape, okay.
Well, because it's California, they're calling it blue tape, and they can't.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, so they can't get permits to start building, and now your insurance is going to go up. Some of it's just flat being canceled.
Oh my goodness.
All right, here's one for you. Ding-a-ling in our own backyard. Portland Trailblazers up for sale. The NBA franchise announced the news in a statement yesterday morning. The process is likely to continue through the 25-26 season, that the NBA Board of Governors will have to ratify a final purchase agreement. But Paul Allen, who purchased the Blazers for $70 million in '88, as you know, he passed away in '18, and the franchise has been operated by his family estate since then. His sister, Jody Allen, has served as trustee of the Allen family estate. But in the meantime, they're saying, okay, it's time to sell it. I wonder what it's worth.
Yeah, I was going to say, is there a price tag on it?
Well, we've seen some like Boston Celtics sold for more than $6 billion.
Oh, gosh.
Phoenix Suns sold for $4 billion. I don't know where this is going to go. Now, at one point, Phil Knight offered to buy the Blazers for more than $2 billion.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So who do you think ends up with this?
Gosh, I don't know. Is it going to be a group or will it be an individual?
I wonder if Phil Knight takes another run at it.
Oh, wow. I don't know.
Well, this is kind of like, these are kind of like crown jewels for very wealthy people.
Yeah, it is.
They own some
like
kind of
guys like Mark Cuban and
yeah. I don't know. Donald's kind of busy these days.
I think he is, and he's a real sports fan anyway.
Yeah, but I think he wants to buy a wrestler.
Plus, he's a little preoccupied right now. Yeah.
Well, anyway, it's for sale. We'll see what happens. It might be time to give it a little boost.
Well, the Trailblazers need a boost.
Yeah.
They're kind of bordering on insignificance these days.
Okay, well, there we go.
Anyway, moving on. Well, speaking of sports, it was on this day in history that... Yeah, it was on this. I got my stories all over here.
No, I messed up the floor.
Well, that's okay. Well, it was on this day in history that we had a very unusual thing happen in this country. It was the very first Olympic Games that came onto American shore, but it was kind of a secondary thing. Take a look at this.
The third Olympiad of the modern era and the first Olympic Games to be held in the United States opened on May 14, 1904 in St. Louis, Missouri. The 1904 Games were staged in connection with the St. Louis World's Fair. The Olympics actually capitalized on the popularity of the World's Fair, which drew far greater crowds than the upstart modern Olympics. It was even said that it was like a World's Fair with some sporting side events. Only 15 nations and a few unattached individuals were represented in the Gateway to the West. And as expected, U.S. athletes won a majority of the competitions and the unofficial team championship. The marathon may be the single most memorable event from the 1904 Games. The race took place in 90-degree heat on dusty country roads with only a single water break. In fact, it was illegal to drink any other water during the race, and 18 of the 32 athletes withdrew from exhaustion. Cuban runner Felix Carbajal, running in street clothes, was done in by stomach cramps after stopping beside the road to gorge on apples. South African runner Len Tau was chased off course by a pack of wild dogs. Fred Lors looked to have won the marathon until it was discovered right before he was to receive the gold medal that he rode partway in a car. The winner was Thomas Hicks, whose assistants fed him eggs, shots of brandy, and doses of the toxic stimulant strychnine to keep him going. With that and severe dehydration, he was hallucinating as he crossed the finish line in 3 hours, 28 minutes, and 53 seconds.
That was the very first Olympic Games on this soil. And it's interesting, too, because it was supposed to be in Chicago, but St. Louis was having the World's Fair, and the World's Fair was a much bigger deal than the Olympics. So they said, they're getting big crowds for the World's Fair. Let's have the Olympics right with them. So it was kind of like a World's Fair, and they're having these little side events, sporting events. But that marathon was one for the books.
I can't believe they only allowed one water break.
The organizer.
What were they thinking about?
Oh, the guy that organized this was off his rocker, and I mean, no water, and the winner, they're giving him poison. Strychnine is poison.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Anyway.
Those
were the good old days.
Those were the good old days. All right, we're going to come back and talk about President Trump's favorite color.
And forever and ever, his heart is my home.
Thousands of satisfied customers make Jim Clark's Consignment Country the most recommended RV consignment lot on the West Coast. Even dealers recommend us. That success comes from dealing with only the cleanest pre-owned RVs at the best prices, no high-pressured salespeople, and treating customers with respect. And we've been doing this in the same location for over 40 years. Before you buy or sell your RV, see why so many satisfied customers recommend Jim Clark's Consignment Country. Family owned and operated at 1630 Rogue River Highway in Grants Pass.
Come fall in love with Northridge Senior Living, where contemporary sunlit interiors meet old world elegance. Walk through our lovely hallways and enjoy the fun staff-led activities. Forge lasting friendships with other residents and our exceptional caregivers. Dine in style. Gather near the fireplace under breathtaking chandeliers. Our reasonably priced apartments are spacious with private balconies. Northridge is Christian owned and operated, pet friendly, and only 2 blocks from Asante Rogue Regional Medical Center. On-site 24/7 in-home care is available. We also offer senior adult daycare where your loved one can spend the day with us and the evenings with you. Northridge Senior Living, your home.
kind of life are you living? You want to be a happy person? Don't chase happiness. Chase after God. Come to God and He will clean your life up. You just come as you are.
Hey, how you all doing out there? Well, listen, it's kind of interesting to watch this Middle East tour. President Trump's favorite color is certainly gold.
Yeah.
You know, I'm wondering if he'll be bored with heaven.
Well, the streets are gold.
Well, the streets are gold.
There you go.
You know, I don't know. I say that tongue in cheek, but have you seen a picture of have you seen a wide picture of the Oval Office?
I have not.
It is a little, to me, it's a little overdone.
You think so?
Yeah, there's a lot of gold in there.
All right.
Anyway, he has shown much honor to the Saudi royal family, and he addressed the U.S.-Saudi Investment Forum yesterday, which was, primarily let's make a deal, and showed great appreciation. And here's what he had to say.
I want to thank His Royal Highness, the Crown Prince, for that incredible introduction. He's an incredible man. Known him a long time now. There's nobody like him. Thank you very much. Appreciate it very much, my friend. And it's a tremendous honor to return to this beautiful kingdom and be welcomed back with such extraordinary generosity and warmth. I've never forgotten the exceptional hospitality showed to us by King Solomon, who's just, we talk about a great man. That is a great man. That is a great man, a great family. And most importantly for the people in this room, the days of economic misery under the last administration are rapidly giving way to the greatest economy in the history of the world. We are rocking. The United States is the hottest country, with the exception of your country, I have to say, right? I'm not going to take that on. No, Mohammed, I'm not going to take that on. But not only is this a time of incredible excitement in the United States, it's also an exhilarating period right here in the Arabian Peninsula. Beautiful place, by the way. Beautiful place. Exactly. Thank you. Exactly 8 years ago this month, I stood in this very room and looked forward to a future in which the nations of this region would drive the forces of terrorism and extremism, drive them right out of existence, and take your place among the proudest, most prosperous, most successful nations anywhere in the world as leaders of a modern and rising Middle East. So exciting. So exciting. Mohammed, you sleep at night? How do you sleep? Huh? Just thinking. What a job. He tosses and turns like some of us. Tosses and turns all night. How do I make it even better all night? It's the ones that don't toss and turn. They're the ones that will never take you to the promised land, won't they? But you have done some job. True. Over the past 8 years, Saudi Arabia has proved the critics totally wrong. The transformation that has occurred even by these incredible business leaders. I mean, you had the biggest leaders in business anywhere in the world standing right before us. But the transformation that has occurred under the leadership of King Salman and Crown Prince Mohammed has been truly extraordinary. Such a thing has, I don't think, ever happened before. I've never seen anything at that scale happen before.
Oh, man.
By the way, I like the way you made this room.
Yeah.
Gosh, that ceiling is wonderful.
Oh,
okay.
God. Oh.
All right, we're going to take a Construction 101 break. We'll be right back.
Live the adventure with Hellgate Jetboat Excursions. Discover your wild side in the heart of the Pacific Northwest with Hellgate's high-speed spins, stunning Rogue River scenery, and incredible wildlife sightings. It's an experience like no other. Plus, you can enjoy brunch or dinner on the open-air deck of the exclusive Hellgate River Lodge, a place where families connect, friends unite, and the river brings it all to life. Visit Hellgate.com to book your adventure. Hellgate Jet Boat Excursions, where adventure runs wild.
What if your next ride was more than just a ride?
What if it was an epic adventure filled with unforgettable memories?
At Panoramic Moto Tours, we take you beyond the ordinary, offering curated routes, privately guided with all the details handled.
Our passion is to share the joy of riding incredible roads, exploring new sights and towns, and connecting with others and sharing our stories.
Sound good to you?
What are you waiting for? Let's create your custom tour, or join us on one of our upcoming tours.
The Lost Coast and Trinity Alps, May 16th through the 19th, or the Oregon Coast and Cascades Tour, June 22nd through the 26th. Just click the Tours tab at panoramicmototours.com or call 541-622-3844.
panoramicmototours.com. Your next adventure starts here.
Weekday mornings on the Dove, it's one of the longest running shows in broadcast history. The 700 Club. Informative with the day's top events. Encouraging with uplifting stories of faith. The 700 Club. Weekdays on the Dove TV.
Good morning. Welcome back to Mornings on the Dove. Well, in the world of Airbnbs, we have a lot of options these days. Some are very unusual, and here is one of the latest.
A man has turned a 1970s private jet into a tiny home and listed it on Airbnb. Aviation enthusiasts are sure to love the original cockpit, maintained as it was from the days it flew oil executives to and from countries and meetings. The unique home is complete with 2 bedrooms, sleep 2 adults and 2 children, and has a fully functioning kitchen, a bathroom with a shower, and outdoor seating area. The passion project belongs to an Airbnb host in Wales who acquired half of the 1970s Hawker jet in December 2023 from an acquaintance who deals in oddities. After being decommissioned in the 1980s, it was cut in half and had the wings removed for ease of transport. The owner spent 7 months and nearly $120,000 transforming the jet into a rental property. Available for $190 per night, it is a pet-friendly property and has only been on Airbnb for 3 weeks, but is already at 70% occupancy.
So, would you stay there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You go to the boneyards like down in Arizona.
Yeah.
There's a guy looking at buying a bunch of them and going out and making hotels out of them by taking the wings off and just taking the fuselage and making them like a spoke on a wheel. So I have all these things going out.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, and so I was reading about how that's a great thing to do.
Yeah.
So if you got some old 747s
There's no shortage of them down there, is there?
No, just cut them up, turn them around, make them like a spoke wheel.
Yeah.
Then in the hub in the middle could be like a common area and all that.
Oh, I like it.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
No, I think it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of cool.
Well, that's a lot of money to convert it across.
Yeah. It's like getting on this KC-97 out here.
Oh, yeah.
You can go up there and you can rent it for a party.
Okay. Oh, man.
Yeah,
I've never been in there. I want to go in.
Yeah, it's cool.
All right.
Guess who's president of that company?
Wow.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Well, it's a little nonprofit thing that we run for the airport.
Cool.
Hey, take with you Psalm 16:8. I have set the Lord always before me because he is at my right hand. I shall not be shaken. All right, set the Lord before you today, and you'll have a good day, and you'll survive a spiritual earthquake.
An American tradition like no other. The Central Point Wild Road Pro Rodeo, presented by Country Financial. It's set to be the ride of a lifetime.
This isn't just any rodeo. This is where legends are made. See many of the nation's top 20 cowboys and cowgirls compete on National Finals rodeo stock. Right here at the home of the only 100-point bull ride. Barrels, bareback, broncs, tie-down roping, team roping, and of course, bulls. Mark your calendars. The Wild Road Pro Rodeo hits the expo in Central Point May 15th through the 17th.
big ideas grow.
Since 1987, Four Seasons Nursery has been the gold standard in the green industry here in Southern Oregon. Tim Elbert and his friendly staff continue to offer the best plants and most accurate knowledge to create your dream landscape. At Four Seasons Nursery on Crater Lake Avenue, you can let your imagination run wild with a huge selection of all things plant and gardening for both inside and outside beautification. Whether it's a flower for your windowsill, one of our beautifully renowned signature hanging baskets, or a complete landscape design for your entire property, Four Seasons Nursery can help you every step of the way with design services, workshops, and more. Let your imagination run wild as you immerse yourself in their nursery filled with beauty that knows no bounds. Four Seasons Nursery, 5736 Crater Lake Avenue, 5736 Crater Lake Avenue, 1/2 mile north of Vilas Road, 541-779-5603, 541-779-5603.
At Sweet Tea Express, we've got you covered. Order at the counter and our friendly service staff will do the rest. Burgers, salads, sandwiches, barbecue platters, sides, and more. Smoked, grilled, and served to perfection. Sweet Tea Express, breakfast, burgers, and barbecue.
Washington Watch with Tony Perkins is your watchful eye on the nation's capital. Every weeknight, covering current events, issues of faith, family, and freedom from a conservative Christian perspective.
Who is really upholding the law? And
Tony is the president of the Family Research Council and your leading source for what's really happening in our nation's capital.
That's just the tip of the iceberg.
Don't miss Washington Watch, weeknights at 6 on the Dove TV. The Battle of Political and Religious Liberty with Jay Sekulow, Wednesdays and Thursdays on the Dove TV, encouraging and informative.
Well, good morning, good morning. Happy Wednesday. Welcome to Mornings on the Dove, better known as the Hour of Jury Building.
Oh, golly, that's something to look forward to. Oh, man.
Anyway, good morning to you. Happy Wednesday, beautiful weather, a lot going on in the news, and happy birthday, Israel. It was on this day in 1948 that it broke away and declared its independence, became a nation. And within 11 minutes, Jerry is telling us that of their claiming of their independence, President Truman stepped to the microphone and said, yep, we recognize him.
And you know, it was probably about a minute or two later that their Arab neighbors declared war on them. It was the first Arab-Israeli war.
There you go.
It happened right away.
So anyway, today they're 77 years old. Is this the generation talked about in Matthew 24?
Oh boy, is that a huge question.
Yeah, it's
oh
a big
my
question.
Goodness, yes.
All you scholars are yelling at me.
Oh
right
man, yeah.
Anyway, good morning to you. A lot going on in the news. We'll have that for you in a moment. What else going on?
Well, it is National Decency Day, celebrating the basic standard of civility that every American deserves. Decency is a nonpartisan grassroots movement launched to inspire decency in everyday life in both conversations and actions.
We used to call that public service.
Oh, well, you know, that's kind of taken a turn too, hasn't it?
We used to call it, but it was civility and public service,
And, you know, and that's the big test. It's not only, you know, when you're talking to people eyeball to eyeball, but, you know, those times when, well, you're surrounded by 3,000 pounds of steel and the guy in front of you isn't going when the light turned green.
Oh,
are you going to be decent or not?
Yeah.
So, anyway.
You want to get out of your car, go up and tap on the side of the window and say, hey, would you mind moving a little bit there?
Yeah, and you know what? In this day and age where we have YouTube videos and you have all these traffic confrontations, you can sit for hours and watch bad behavior and people being not very decent to each other.
So I have a question for you.
Okay.
Have you ever sat through a green light?
Is this time for confession?
I think there's a real spiritual application.
I will say this. I have been alerted to the fact that I'm sitting at a green light. I have had that happen. Yeah, I thank them.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
All right, it's also National Underground America Day. Recognizing the approximately 6,000 people in our country who live in some form of underground architecture.
Hobbits.
Hobbits, right? It's Hobbit living, but 6,000 people live like this. And of course, subterranean living boasts energy conservation as one of its top advantages, but the views out the windows leave something to be desired.
Well, yeah, I could not live in a cave.
Oh, yeah, and yeah. You know,
I couldn't do it.
That's a little much.
You're
anyway.
one earthquake away from being flattened.
You don't think about that, do you? You know, you're in the ground when the earth starts shaking. Moving on, National Receptionists Day.
All right.
Receptionists are responsible for providing an excellent first impression to all customers, whether it's eyeball to eyeball or on the phone. And you know, if you have a good receptionist, you know, they're so very important to companies.
We have two of the best right here.
Absolutely, without a doubt. Also, National Third Shift Workers Day, recognizing the workers who face the night to keep businesses running, hospitals staffed, and streets safe. Our hats off to those who are working that third shift, because we're working the first shift. Yep. Getting up at dark 30 and starting the day, and you guys close it out. So our hats off to you.
All right.
And only one thing to eat: buttermilk biscuits. It is National Buttermilk Biscuits Day, and of course, you know, a lot of things you can do with biscuits, eating them on the side of your breakfast or whatever. But it's hard to beat this, because before the Civil War, biscuits emerged as an inexpensive addition to meals. This sturdier bread product soon became popular as people realized it absorbed the gravy on their plate better than plain bread. Soon, a new family of favorite biscuits and gravy was created, and it is one of the best. I don't know about the nutritional value in biscuits and gravy, but there is something that sticks to your ribs. Yeah, zero.
Yeah.
But it fills you up, and it'll stay with you.
Cardiologist Association
Oh,
of
my
America.
gosh, yes. And I don't know about you, but, you know, there are some good biscuit and gravy recipes out there, and I love it all. And, you know, there was a time where I traveled to Oregon pretty extensively. There's hardly a diner or restaurant in this, at least off of the major corridors around here, that I haven't eaten at. And biscuits and gravy was always a favorite. And you know what? My doctor may be talking to me about that in one of my upcoming appointments. But here's a little touch of Wednesday factoid. Did you know that a single strand of spaghetti is actually called a spaghetto?
Oh.
Who thinks of these things?
Spaghetto.
Spaghetti.
Isn't there a thing called SpaghettiOs?
SpaghettiOs. You're right. Yeah, in a can. Yeah, those things, they have a shelf life of about 40 years. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
But imagine there is a plural, a singular, and a plural application for spaghetti. Spaghetto.
Okay. He does the weather here, too. He's one string guy.
With a broad low-pressure system moving over the top of our region, today in northern Oregon and southern Washington, cloudy with a chance of showers, gradually becoming mostly sunny with highs in the mid-60s for Vancouver, Portland, Wilsonville, and McMinnville. Continuing down the Willamette Valley, cloudy with a chance of showers, gradually becoming mostly sunny with daytime highs near 64 in Salem and Albany and 63 in Corvallis and Eugene. In central Oregon, partly sunny with daytime highs in the low 60s around Prineville and mid to upper 50s in Bend and Sun River. Mostly sunny and breezy around Boise, Idaho with high temperatures in the mid to upper 60s. Along the Oregon coast, a slight chance of showers, then mostly sunny, breezy and near 60 in Coos Bay and 58 in Port Orford. Becoming sunny, breezy and mid to upper 50s for Brookings and Crescent City, California. In southern Oregon, mostly sunny with highs in the upper 60s for Grants Pass and Medford and mid-60s in Ashland with a light northwest wind. In the Klamath Basin, sunny and low 60s. Into northern California, mostly sunny with a high near 64 in Wairika. Sunny in upper 70s in Redding and near 80 in Chico and Sacramento with a calm wind becoming northwest around 6 miles per hour. In the Bay Area, patchy early morning fog, then sunny in mid-70s for Santa Rosa and Napa. Sunny in San Francisco with a high near 67. And today in San Jose, some early patchy fog, then sunny and near 77. It's a snapshot of your Wednesday weather on the Dove.
All right, good morning. There's a beautiful shot of our place called home, better known as the Rogue Valley, and that is now looking north, panning south. Still has some clouds around the edges, but for the most part, sunshine's on the way.
Another nice spring day in Southern Oregon. Well, some encouragement today with Dr. David Jeremiah as he points out the many provisions that God makes for us.
I'm here to tell you today that no matter what the circumstances look like, behind all of the mist of the unknown is this truth: we have a God who is good. It's remarkable to think about that, but when we're in the will of God through Jesus Christ, we will never face a genuine need for which God doesn't give us a genuine provision. Think about this. The one who gave us lungs created air. The one who gave us stomachs supplies food and water. He who made us in his image provided companionship, and he who made us with eyes created spellbinding vistas for us to enjoy. He who made us with eternal souls provided a pathway to heaven through our Lord Jesus Christ. Whatever our need, the goodness of God provides the answer. Psalm 33:5 says, "The earth is full of the goodness of the Lord." He provides for us. Can we say an amen to that? Is God our provider? Amen.
Amen. I'll say it.
Yeah, it's Psalms, Isaiah. Isaiah says, when God moves, who can reverse it? So when God begins to move in your behalf, nothing can stop it. Nothing can stop it.
Yep.
Nothing can stop it. All right, let's take a look at some of the big stories out there. And, of course, it all hinges over the president in the Middle East. He was in Saudi Arabia, Qatar. He's thinking about he might slip over to Syria and get involved in the Russian and Ukraine talks. We'll see. What's so interesting, nobody knew what his agenda was until he got to Saudi Arabia, and it was a business deal. And when he got done with it, given his ability to make deals and wanting to do more trade, he walks away with about $600 billion in exchange of business. $142 billion of it was made to Saudi Arabia, buying American-made military equipment. $142 billion. Wow. Okay. In the meantime, there's other deals being put together as it relates to trade, and apparently there are multi-billion-dollar commercial deals with Amazon, Oracle, AMD, Uber, Qualcomm, Johnson & Johnson, just to name a few, that are a part of this exchange with Saudi Arabia. I suspect now this will be the crowning moment, pardon the pun, of bringing Saudi Arabia into the Abraham Accord. And so out of this, he slipped over to Qatar. He's over there, kind of mixed deals over there. Qatar has to be looked at a little bit different, putting a lot of pressure on Syria as he's moving about there in the Middle East. Gave 5 points to Syria to change things if they want to do business with us. CBN Newswatch will have those 5 points for you coming up in just a moment. In the meantime, back home, the president continues to win at the courts as more and more judges are stepping in over the top of the rogue judges, or even the Supreme Court, and reversing some of these decisions made by these rogue district judges with their various rulings. The latest ones, the federal court allows the use of what they call the Alien Enemies Act, that mandates due process protects for criminal illegal immigrants. Well, the question is, were they given due process or did they forfeit due process? And they were being forced to be brought back. Judge steps in and says, nope, they can stay on the other side under the Aliens Enemies Act, that the president is right in doing what he's done. And here's Representative Chip Roy to let us know it's a good deal, but it still has some problems.
This important ruling from the Supreme Court reset the table with respect to the activism, the blatant activism by Boasberg. Now, let's keep in mind what the court said. The court said that, look, he had no business doing this from the District of Columbia. This is a flight that was originating in Texas to remove people that are being rightfully removed because they're a danger to our country. Now, pause for a second. How do I know that they're a danger to our country, Harris? 47 people affiliated with Tren de Aragua were just caught literally in Dripping Springs, Texas, not far from where I live. This is a real issue throughout Texas because of the absolute devastation that the Biden administration wreaked upon the United States and its people. So now President Trump is doing the right thing to remove these dangerous gang members. And this activist judge inserted himself. Now, the good news is the Supreme Court said, no, you don't get to do that. This should have been done in Texas, and there's a process for doing this, and that the law is good law. My concern is that Amy Coney Barrett didn't follow the majority. So there was one that voted the wrong way. My other concern is that they said there needs to be a reasonable time for these folks to be able to go appeal their case, which means it's going to go back to habeas cases, which means there's going to be a churn on these cases. So it's good news, but it's not something that we should take to the bank without changing. That's why, as the chairman of the Constitution Subcommittee, we had a hearing about legislation that we need to move through the House to limit some of the abuses that are taking place with these nationwide injunctions by these rogue judges.
Okay. Wow. So it's got, I think you're going to see, I really think what's going to happen, this is not going to go away until the Congress steps in and redefines district courts' jurisdictions, until the Supreme Court steps in and looks at the merit of each case.
Right.
And asks itself the question, does the president have the power under basically national security to deport these people?
You know, it's interesting, too, though. You know, we've seen issues of the deep state. We've been told about it since the very first Donald Trump term, and we saw it. It has truly played out. But did we think that the deep state also included a portion of the judiciary?
No. They found an ambiguity, and that was the authority of district courts being able to do injunctions the way they've done it. I think the intent of the district court was to do business within their district.
Yes.
That was the intent of a district court.
Right.
But nobody defined the boundaries of that.
Right. So they were able to go judge shopping when they want to stop this president.
Yeah.
Right.
So anyway, we'll see how this is. You know what? Bad turns to good after a while because this is a problem that needs to be fixed.
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, the other thing that's happening is the president's in the Middle East running around. It's been very, very interesting. It looks like they could be up to 4 to 6 nations could join the Abraham Accord as this tour is expanding connections with the Middle East more, not only relationally, but has a lot to do with economics. And some people say that the president is using economics to make a deal that could be pulled if they politically don't work together. But there is a common thread here. What's the purpose of the Abraham Accord? All those nations have one thing in mind. They are against Iran.
Yeah, good point. Yep.
This is the problem with the Sunni Shiite thing. We don't understand that in the West. But most of these countries that are in the Abraham Accord, want Iran to be denuked. And part of the agreement is to let Israel thrive.
Yeah.
That's the rub.
Yeah, yeah.
Question. Well, countries like Egypt come in.
Yeah.
Well, Lebanon, if they were to get the Hezbollah booted out, would they come in?
Yeah.
And the list goes on and on. So anyway, we'll see how this works out. In the meantime, right in the middle of this whole thing going on in the Middle East, it looks like Russia and Ukraine are getting together and being hosted in Turkey for peace talks. It's possible that Putin shows up. And if Putin does show up to talk about this, it's possible that President Trump will interrupt his time in the Middle East, or at least that part of the Middle East, and fly over and meet with them in Syria for a couple of hours.
Okay, so we've heard that Zelensky would like this to happen. Any word about Putin's feelings on this?
I haven't heard anything directly. It seems to be indirect that he's open to it. Okay. Zelensky is making one prerequisite to the whole deal.
What?
I'll sit down face to face with you. I want to meet face to face with you under one condition.
What?
Ceasefire.
Oh, okay.
You have to have a ceasefire. What would be the purpose of two guys sitting in a room when they're still shooting at each other?
They're still shooting, yes. That's a great point.
So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
All right. So much for all that, and that's a lot.
Yes.
As we look for biscuits and gravy.
Absolutely.
Village Co-op, where big ideas grow.
Your property demands equipment with more reliability, durability, and versatility built in. Kubota equipment is ready to get the job done right.
Come fall in love with Northridge Senior Living, where contemporary sunlit interiors meet old world elegance. Walk through our lovely hallways and enjoy the fun staff-led activities. Forge lasting friendships with other residents and our exceptional caregivers. Dine in style. Gather near the fireplace under breathtaking chandeliers. Our reasonably priced apartments are spacious with private balconies. Northridge is Christian-owned and operated, pet-friendly, and only 2 blocks from Asante Rogue Regional Medical Center. On-site 24/7 in-home care is available. We also offer senior adult daycare where your loved one can spend the day with us and the evenings with you. Northridge Senior Living, your home.
Welcome back. Happy Wednesday to you. Beautiful day in the neighborhood. More and more sunshine popping up, so it's going to be a nice day. Some news to our neighbor to the south, California. It looks like Sacramento during the legislature, gave the top insurance regulator over the last couple of days in California, said that State Farm can soon start raising premiums to 17% for all of its home insurer customers. Now, this is really interesting as to why they're doing this. So normally, California puts a cap on everything, including oxygen, I think. So the top insurance regulator suggested this. Apparently, the legislature is saying yes. What is this all about? Well, it's really a decision to help insurance companies continue to do business in California. Otherwise, they just cancel everybody. And what happened as a result of the fires down there, as you know, people are not getting, the insurance companies are backing out. It's a mess. They're no longer calling it the red tape to rebuild. They're calling it the blue tape. They literally can't get in there and start to do anything.
Wow.
You got every other agency in there trying to stop them. Well, in the meantime, if you bill, can you get it insured? So the insurance commissioner comes along and says to the legislature, well, let's give them the okay to go up 17%. Have you bought, I was in California last weekend.
Yeah.
Have you looked at the gas prices down there?
I have.
I don't, by the time you buy gas, and it's $6 Starbucks, you're out of money for the week.
You have to avoid Starbucks.
Excuse me. Then you have 17% on top of your insurance, and that could be a minimum.
Yeah.
17 on anyway.
Right.
I don't know. I'll say this about that. Okay. Thank you, Jeff Golden, for messing the insurance business up in the state of Oregon.
Oh boy. Oh,
Did he ever let the cat out of the bag on that one?
Man. Yeah, but it was all rescinded, wasn't it? It was retracted.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Until the insurance companies created their own map.
Right. Try to put that back in the box.
Try to put that back in the box.
Yeah.
So the only thing I can say is have a nice day. You need to be voted out. That was the worst thing that ever happened to us. We may not recover from it.
I know.
All right. Well, here's one. Are you a Trailblazer fan?
Yeah.
Of course you are. Yeah. Well, they're
Absolutely.
for sale.
Yeah, but there hasn't been much to root about lately, but they're for sale.
Yeah.
Wow.
So apparently the NBA has announced that over the 25-26 season, the NBA Board of Governors will then ratify the final purchase agreement, depending on who's going to buy them. If you remember, it was back in about 1988 when Paul Allen bought the Blazers for $70 million. In the meantime, he passed away in 2018, and his family estate plan deal, anyway, kept it running. So they're done with it. So the question is, I don't know, does Phil Knight buy it? Because he offered at one time to pay $2 billion for him. I don't know who else would buy it. but
Yeah.
somebody in that category will have to buy it. But apparently they're for sale. They need a little boost.
Yeah, it's only been about, what, 54 years or so since we had a championship come to Portland? Yeah.
A little bit of a problem.
Yeah, a little bit of a dry spell, I'd say.
Well, some of these teams went for a lot of money. Phoenix Suns sold for $4 billion.
Yeah.
The Boston Celtics sold for $6 billion in 22.
Yeah,
That's a lot of money.
Michael Jordan owned part of the Charlotte ball club, Charlotte Hornets, and they sold that a couple years ago. And I think he walked away personally with around $3 billion from that deal.
Well, Paul Allen, he was quite a guy. I don't know if his buddy Bill Gates would buy it, but Bill Gates, I think he's still trying to get through his domestic settlement.
Well, and he's got issues. He's trying to save the world with vaccines and
and bad peanut butter. Okay. Yeah, but I don't know. Will it be Phil Knight?
Yeah, you would think that would be kind of a natural move.
Well, you would like to see it kind of home based. They got this other thing going on with a professional baseball team up in Portland.
Oh, yeah. How's that?
Well, that's been a can of worms.
Right.
Then you got the A's
in Sacramento.
Playing in Sacramento that probably end up in Las Vegas.
Las Vegas. Yes.
They already got their radio. So it's kind of like the musical chairs of sports team. So could the Blazers go somewhere else?
Yeah, they could.
They could get bought and moved somewhere else.
There's an interesting option.
The NBA would have to look at that, but a team's a team. Where's home for them?
Yeah.
Now, could that be the next move for Las Vegas? They have football, baseball, and now basketball. I mean, that would be the crown jewel for sports down there.
Oh, yeah. Oh, by the way, speaking of sports, just a little addition here. Did you see, now that he has passed away, Pete Rose has been they've taken away the ban. Actually, he took away all bans for players who are banned from baseball. It happens after you die. Is like, so if you are banned from baseball and you die, well, then all of a sudden your ban is lifted. So Pete Rose has been lifted. So the big question is, will he get voted into the Hall of Fame?
Okay, you want to age a little bit on that?
I do.
And?
I think he'll get voted in.
I do too.
Yeah, I think so.
So is there family left around for them?
Great question. Yeah, I think so.
So that to be family that would step up and receive it.
Right. And it's interesting too, because whenever you read an article about Pete Rose, they talk about the fact that he bet on baseball, which is the cardinal sin. But it's always added, he bet on his team, but he never bet against them. He never bet that another team would bet his team, which then creates the conflict, because if you're betting on the other team, are you going to do something to throw the game? So anyway, we'll see. Interesting stuff.
All right, let's take a look at Wall Street, see how it's faring all these news headlines today. Thank you, Preston, over at the Smart Lawn Guy. He is the Smart Lawn Guy. Call him and get a Smart Lawn. The Dow's up a whopping 33 points. The Nasdaq is up 50, almost 51. And the S&P jumped out of the chutes, up 2 points. So a little green ink this morning. The numbers are good. We'll talk to an economist later. They did push gold down to $3,200 even. Silver's at $32.52. Even though crude oil points down, it's up $66.42 a barrel. Remember we saw $59 a couple of weeks ago?
Yeah.
But my complaint about all this economy stuff, none of it showed up on the West Coast.
Why is that?
We haven't seen it in energy,
nothing,
and food.
Right.
None of it showed up over
here. My bills are still going up. But anyway, it was on this day in history that one of the most unusual Olympics, the very first Olympics, came to the shores of the United States.
The third Olympiad of the modern era and the first Olympic Games to be held in the United States opened on May 14, 1904 in St. Louis, Missouri. The 1904 Games were staged in connection with the St. Louis World's Fair. The Olympics actually capitalized on the popularity of the World's Fair, which drew far greater crowds than the upstart modern Olympics. It was even said that it was like a World's Fair with some sporting side events. Only 15 nations and a few unattached individuals were represented in the Gateway to the West. And as expected, U.S. athletes won a majority of the competitions and the unofficial team championship. The marathon may be the single most memorable event from the 1904 Games. The race took place in 90-degree heat on dusty country roads with only a single water break. In fact, it was illegal to drink any other water during the race, and 18 of the 32 athletes withdrew from exhaustion. Cuban runner Felix Carbajal, running in street clothes, was done in by stomach cramps after stopping beside the road to gorge on apples. South African runner Len Tau was chased off course by a pack of wild dogs. Fred Lors looked to have won the marathon until it was discovered right before he was to receive the gold medal that he rode partway in a car. The winner was Thomas Hicks, whose assistants fed him eggs, shots of brandy, and doses of the toxic stimulant strychnine to keep him going. With that and severe dehydration, he was hallucinating as he crossed the finish line in 3 hours, 28 minutes, and 53 seconds.
It was said that the road that they ran on, it was all dirt roads and stuff. They said the dust was so thick that people couldn't swallow, and the fact that in the rules they said you couldn't drink water except at one stop, and that was exactly in the middle of the race. So here's a great idea. Let's run in 90-degree weather, choking down dust, but let's deny all the contestants water.
Okay, so if you had eggs and brandy, you'd be delirious too, wouldn't you?
I'd be hallucinating.
You're out there running 26 miles, and the only thing you had is eggs and brandy?
Brandy. Wait a minute. Some strychnine.
Oh, really?
Yeah, strychnine. Some poison on top of it.
No wonder you didn't turn around and run the other way.
Wow, that's the good old days.
Wow. All right, we'll take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Your yard is where life happens, but it can be muddy and hard to maintain. Enjoy a maintenance-free artificial turf lawn all year round with Smart Lawn LLC. No mowing, no fertilizing, no watering. Our synthetic grass is beautiful and resilient. It's certified to be lead-free, and there's no need for pesticides. Safe for your children and pets. Smart Lawn LLC has all your artificial turf and putting green areas covered beautifully. 541-941-3538.
At Sweet Tea Express, we've got you covered. Order at the counter and our friendly service staff will do the rest. Burgers, salads, sandwiches, barbecue platters, sides, and more. Smoked, grilled, and served to perfection. Sweet Tea Express, breakfast, burgers, and barbecue.
Hi, I'm the SOS Alarm guy, here to tell you about a great deal. SOS Alarm will not only beat any internet deal, but will install the system too. So burglars, beware. SOS Alarm for security and beyond.
Go where the wild runs deep. At Hellgate Jetboat Excursions, you feel the power of the mighty Rogue River as you take in the sights and sounds of nature, journey through Hellgate Canyon, and adventure through the breathtaking wilderness. Enjoy brunch or dinner on the open-air deck of the exclusive Hellgate River Lodge, and end your adventure with our exciting jetboat spins. It's a memory in the making with family and friends. Book your adventure at Hellgate.com. Hellgate Jetboat Excursions, where adventure runs wild.
Experience evangelism like never before.
It's not about finding ourselves. It's not about being true to ourselves. It's about being born again.
Way of the Master's dynamic co-host team delivers captivating witnessing encounters.
That makes you feel uncomfortable because you're doing things you know you shouldn't. Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong.
Bold street witnessing that will leave you inspired and equipped to share your faith. Watch Way of the Master Thursdays at 8:30 p.m. and Fridays at 5 on the Dove TV.
Okay, welcome back, and a lot going on around the Middle East these days, obviously, with the president's trip over there, Saudi Arabia, then Qatar. He might end up in Syria before it's all done. We'll see how it goes. So let's check in with CBN Newswatch and get caught up on the latest.
This is CBN Newswatch.
It is Wednesday, May 14th. We begin this half hour in the Middle East, where President Trump, in addition to meeting with key leaders and once again sending a warning to Iran over its nuclear program, has also made a series of major economic and political moves that will have a major impact on the region, the U.S. and Israel. CBN Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell reports now from Jerusalem.
This morning in Saudi Arabia, President Trump met with Syria's new leader just one day after announcing he's lifting sanctions on the country. The move came amidst a flurry of other activity Tuesday when the president signed a deal worth hundreds of billions of dollars with the Saudi kingdom, encouraged the crown prince to recognize Israel, and issued a new warning to Iran. The deals with Saudi Arabia amount to about $600 billion, including a $142 billion arms agreement. At the Saudi Investor Conference, President Trump said he hopes Saudi Arabia will join the Abraham Accords.
It's my fervent hope, wish, and even my dream that Saudi Arabia, a place I have such respect for, especially over the last fairly short period of time, what you've been able to do, but we'll soon be joining the Abraham Accords. But it will be a special day in the Middle East with the whole world watching when Saudi Arabia joins us, and you'll be greatly honoring me, and you'll be greatly honoring all of those people that have fought so hard for the Middle East, and I really think it's going to be something special, but you'll do it in your own time.
He also criticized the regime in Tehran and blamed it for much of the turmoil in the Middle East.
The biggest and most destructive of these forces is the regime in Iran, which has caused unthinkable suffering in Syria, Lebanon, Gaza, Iraq, Yemen, and beyond.
And he issued an ultimatum.
I want to make a deal with Iran. If I can make a deal with Iran, I'll be very happy if we're going to make your region and the world a safer place. But if Iran's leadership rejects this olive branch and continues to attack their neighbors, then we will have no choice but to inflict massive maximum pressure, drive Iranian oil exports to zero like I did before, and take all action required to stop the regime from ever having a nuclear weapon. Iran will never have a nuclear weapon.
Trump also announced the U.S. has taken steps to normalize relations with Syria and will lift sanctions at the urging of Saudi Crown Prince bin Salman and Turkish President Erdogan. In his meeting with Syrian President al-Shara today, Trump encouraged him to join the Abraham Accords and to tell all foreign terrorists to leave Syria. However, some question if al-Shara, a former al-Qaeda commander, can be trusted.
He don't change. His speak may be moderate, but particularly in facts, he is a radical Sunni man. I talked to people, all this radical group, they said we will make our country Islamic Republic.
Cito says minorities in Syria are fearful of the new government.
We need protection. All these countries supported radical Islam, radical Sunni groups in Syria. We are in fear. They have to help us to protect us for radical Islam.
And Chris Mitchell joins us now from Jerusalem with more. So, Chris, President Trump is asking 5 things of the president of Syria. What are they?
Well, it's a pretty strong list, Ephraim. First of all, to sign on to the Abraham Accords with Israel. Then the next one, he says, tell all foreign terrorists to leave Syria. That's very difficult for many think for al-Shara to do, because many of those terrorists actually were brought in by him when they took over the Assad regime. The other thing is to deport Palestinian terrorists and then help the United States to prevent the resurgence of ISIS, and then assume a responsibility for ISIS detention centers in northeast Syria. And a lot of people are concerned about that because there's tens of thousands of ISIS prisoners that nobody really wants to have let loose inside Syria and the wider Middle East. So it's a lot to ask of a former al-Qaeda commander, and whether or not he can do this. And does this mean maybe deporting or turning his back on some of his own supporters? He walks a fine line between his new image that he's carefully cultivating with world leaders, including U.S. President Donald Trump, and the ones who helped make him come to power. So, and also one other question, and we talked with Kamal Cito about this, who's really in control of Syria? Is it Syria or is it Turkey? He was telling us that actually in Damascus, many of the leaders of the government now are Turkish. And so we don't know if President Erdogan really is casting a shadow over Syria right now, and who's actually in control.
All right, good morning to you. All right, let's check out the weather, as it's beautiful out there.
With a broad low-pressure system moving over the top of our region, today in northern Oregon and southern Washington, cloudy with a chance of showers, gradually becoming mostly sunny with highs in the mid-60s for Vancouver, Portland, Wilsonville, and McMinnville. Continuing down the Willamette Valley, cloudy with a chance of showers, gradually becoming mostly sunny with daytime highs near 64 in Salem and Albany and 63 in Corvallis and Eugene. In central Oregon, partly sunny with daytime highs in the low 60s around Prineville and mid to upper 50s in Bend and Sun River. Mostly sunny and breezy around Boise, Idaho with high temperatures in the mid to upper 60s. Along the Oregon coast, a slight chance of showers, then mostly sunny, breezy and near 60 in Coos Bay and 58 in Port Orford. Becoming sunny, breezy and mid to upper 50s for Brookings and Crescent City, California. In southern Oregon, mostly sunny with highs in the upper 60s for Grants Pass and Medford and mid-60s in Ashland with a light northwest wind. In the Klamath Basin, sunny and low 60s. Into northern California, mostly sunny with a high near 64 in Wairika. Sunny in upper 70s in Redding and near 80 in Chico and Sacramento with a calm wind becoming northwest around 6 miles per hour. In the Bay Area, patchy early morning fog, then sunny in mid-70s for Santa Rosa and Napa. Sunny in San Francisco with a high near 67. And today in San Jose, some early patchy fog, then sunny and near 77. It's a snapshot of your Wednesday weather on the Dove.
Hi, welcome back, and I have a very special guest with me in the studio today. In fact, when I drove in this morning, I drove around into the parking lot and I saw this beautiful horse-carrying rig out there and a pickup truck and all that. And I go, man, somebody's camping out in our yard. It was him. And I have with us Ezra Cooley. He's the founder of Bibles for the Brokenhearted, dedicated to distributing 1 million books about Jesus around the world. He's a single father and a former long-distance horseback rider. In fact, he rode across the country. Has spent over a decade traveling across the country for children, charity of Jesus to those in pain and searching for healing. Thanks for stopping by.
You bet.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too, sir.
I think we have a picture of your horse this morning. Your horse's name is?
Maverick's outside right now. He's tied up to a tree out there.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
There he is. Okay.
That was earlier, before I tied him to the tree.
So he's tied out to the tree right now?
Yeah, now he's out of the tree. But
okay, that's right outside our building here. Beautiful horse. All right, so what are you doing?
Well, so I started this. I rode across the United States twice, and a lot of things happened in my life, and God kind of took me to my knees, and I started a new ministry called Bibles for the Brokenhearted. And my grandma passed away, and I went out and I bought 30,000 different books of the Gospel of John and the Book of Hope and Bible Promise books. And I started writing in honor of the people that had passed away, because that's what the parents always said to me when you had to get that really bad phone call. When you call them up, you become friends with these kids. And I wrote for the charities, and like they just keep on writing for my Hayes or my Brian or whoever. And so I started this thing, and my goal is I give out 1 million books to tell people about how Jesus can carry them, because he carried me so far across the United States.
What a fascinating thing. What is your story shortly? What happened to you and turned your life around?
Well, I've always been a Christian, and I've always loved the Lord, but some stuff happened. I went through, like, when you ride across the desert, like, literally God is there. You can't do it. I had no truck and trailer at the time when I rode across the U.S. and when I went through Australia. Like, it was just me and my horse and my pack horse. And you want to get a close relationship with Jesus, just go through a desert, because you don't know where the next water hole is. You don't know when nothing's going on. And God just, he takes care of me like take care of the birds in the sky. Like, all the way across the United States and all the way across Australia, God just provided, and it was just there. And there's amazing stories in my book, Ezra Cooley's Quest for a Miracle, about that. But I went back to the kind of the, working and being a contractor and training horses and all that, got married, moved to Oregon City, and you start kind of falling away from it. When you're on the horse and you're in the desert, it's easy to be close to God. But when you get back into the world, it's harder. And then I kind of I still love Jesus, but I wasn't exactly doing things exactly being a meek man like I was supposed to be. And my grandma died. My dad committed suicide.
Oh, geez.
And I got a brain injury from some water buffalo. I was a ranch manager for the last 12 years, running water buffalo, and got a head injury. And this girl I just was so in love with, she left, and God just like took all these things away, and I was just like brokenhearted. Well, after losing this girl, her sister passed away and she died. And I just wanted to do something for that family, but I couldn't be there because we were broken up. And I thought, you know, there's only one thing I can do, and that's what I was doing before for the children's charities, is to keep on riding. So that's what I decided to do. And I started my ministry out, actually, Bibles for Kiri. And I changed it to Bibles for the Brokenhearted, because since then, like Hayes' family and all these different families that I'm writing for and that lost their children and whatnot, we're representing them, and started this ministry.
So you write and give out books.
Yeah, we give out Bible Promise books, the Book of Hope. I actually think you guys have a lot to do with the Book of Hope. I took my grandma's inheritance and I bought as many books as I could possibly buy, because I didn't want to send that money for anything but to honor my grandma.
Yeah.
And we did like 30,000 books. So after this trip this week, we should be around 30,000 books out, and then I got to buy more books. But
this book here, this is your story.
This is my story right there, Ezra Cooley's Quest for a Miracle. It talks about, for 10 years I was going to write a book about how cool I am because I rode across 2 countries. But God wanted me to write a book about how he carried me across the United States and Australia. And that's what this book's about. In the end of the book, it talks about the best story at all, which is about Jesus Christ. And it's got the Gospel of John in the back of that book. And I'm really, really happy I made this book, because it's really not about us. It's about him, and it's about every one of us have an amazing story. You might not have rode across the country or whatnot, but God has carried you, and that is really what I want to get out there, is all these amazing stories and build the kingdom.
You must be collecting information about people you meet.
Well, I've met the people I ride for, and I've seen, like, I can tell you stories that just you wouldn't believe it. Like, I was riding through Las Vegas here last year and a half ago, and I'm loping down the deal. I do the special stuff to protect my horses, just so everybody knows. But I'm loping down the deal, and there's like 1,000 people there, and they're all cheering for Bibles for the Broken Heart and Bibles for Kiri. And there's this lady there, and I was just drawn to her, and I reached down and I said, "Would you like to have a book from my grandma for Christmas?" And she just started crying, bawling. And she said, "I've been expecting you." And I was just like, that's God, because there's no way she knew I was going to be coming down the strip down through Las Vegas and handing her a book. So, and there's story after story like that. You know, it's amazing.
So your path from here, you're going to be in Bedford today, riding your horse around, then what?
We're going to ride around a little bit here today. Our goal is to be in Hollywood and ride for the Palisades and for a bunch of people that we're riding for on the John 3:16 ride that I'm calling it today. We're going to ride down Sunrise Boulevard, then we're going to go to Phoenix, and then from Phoenix I'm going to go up to Las Vegas and do a big ride up there. I should be there the following weekend. And then we're going to try and hit some towns along the way. You can go on BiblesForKiri.org, Bibles for the Brokenhearted, and you can follow along. And I have a challenge right now, which is it's pretty cool. If you're out there and if you want to be part of this challenge, the Bible for Broken Heart Challenge, I'm asking that for every city I ride through, you go out and you tell one person, do something strong and courageous, like you would not, like, just talk to somebody you wouldn't normally talk to and tell them about your amazing story, how God carried you. And I hope that by the time I'm done, if everybody goes out there and do that, by the whole West Coast is going to be talking about Jesus when we get done. So that's kind of what I'm thinking.
Well, thanks for coming by.
You bet.
And best to you. Hey, guys, when he leaves, give him a bunch of our devotionals, take with him. We write a devotional, but this is amazing. You can go to BiblesForTheBrokenhearted.com. And what's the other website?
It's BiblesForKiri.org, which is BiblesForTheBrokenHeart.com.
Okay.
It's just they're linked together right now. But for our 5013C is Bibles for the Broken Heart.
All right. Do we have a picture of the horse again? Maverick is the name?
Maverick is the one. He's the main guy right now.
All right. So he's tied up out front there. How old is Maverick?
Maverick is 19.
And this in horse world, that's a buckskin. Right?
He's kind of a Grula buckskin, yeah. And if you noticed on there, you saw the Broken Heart shafts. That's all the kids that we're riding for, so that's pretty cool.
Really?
Yeah, they're kind of riding in spirit with me. So when I'm doing this, I'm not alone. I got an army with me.
How many sets of shoes have you put on Maverick?
Well, right now I actually have plastic shoes on them. They're glue-ons, and it helps with the shock absorbent. And it's a lot better, especially when you're riding that kind of stuff. But most of the time I'd go with borium and pads and stuff. But borium seems to last quite a while.
You're a true cowboy.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. God bless you, pal.
You bet.
Thanks for stopping by. We'll be right back.
You're making me whole with grace you.
Combining your home and auto insurance could save you time and money. And who doesn't like that? When you want surprisingly great rates on auto, home, and life, call State Farm agent Rory Wold in Medford today.
Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Since 1987, Four Seasons Nursery has been the gold standard in the green industry here in Southern Oregon. Tim Elbert and his friendly staff continue to offer the best plants and most accurate knowledge to create your dream landscape. At Four Seasons Nursery on Crater Lake Avenue, you can let your imagination run wild with a huge selection of all things plant and gardening for both inside and outside beautification. Whether it's a flower for your windowsill, one of our beautifully renowned signature hanging baskets, or a complete landscape design for your entire property, Four Seasons Nursery can help you every step of the way with design services, workshops, and more. Let your imagination run wild as you immerse yourself in their nursery filled with beauty that knows no bounds. Four Seasons Nursery, 5736 Crater Lake Avenue, 5736 Crater Lake Avenue, 1/2 mile north of Vilas Road, 541-779-5603, 541-779-5603.
What happens when people hear an audio Bible in their own language for the very first time?
I still remember an old man in the village. We just finished the Bible, we have it in audio. It's the story of Jesus Christ, the Son of God. Would you like to listen? And the old man, 94 years old, said, I have never heard of Jesus Christ, the Son of God. That day he did, that day he accepted Christ.
Join me for the John Ankerberg Show weekdays at 4 o'clock right here on the Dove TV. It'll be encouraging and informative.
Okay, welcome back. Sorry about the noise. This is why we're redoing the building. Hear that?
Huh? What?
Sorry about that. Anyway, welcome back, Maverick Stall Cleaner, right here.
I'll tell you what, that's a good-looking horse tied up right in the parking lot.
Yeah, right out there at the tree. Yeah.
It's cool.
That's really cool. All right, good morning to you. Well, the president's over in the Middle East making history, and he couldn't say enough about the Saudi Crown Prince during the Saudi Investment Forum. And here's a little bit of, I would say, Trumpism in the Middle East.
Riyadh is becoming not just a seat of government, but a major business, cultural, and high-tech capital of the entire world. The World Cup is here. Johnny, just stand up, Johnny. Johnny, thank you, Johnny. The engines of Formula One racing now roar through the streets of Jeddah in a historic milestone. Other industries recently surpassed oil. Think of it, all of your other industries now have surpassed oil. I don't know if a lot of people will understand what that means. It's so big to make up a majority of the Saudi economy for the very first time ever. So think of that. Before our eyes, a new generation of leaders is transcending the ancient conflicts of tired divisions of the past and forging a future where the Middle East is defined by commerce, not chaos, where it exports technology, not terrorism, and where people of different nations, religions, and creeds are building cities together, not bombing each other out of existence. We don't want that. My administration has already taken the first steps toward restoring normal relations between the United States and Syria for the first time in more than a decade. After discussing the situation in Syria with the Crown Prince, your Crown Prince, and also with President Erdogan of Turkey, who called me the other day and asked for a very similar thing, among others, and friends of mine, people that I have a lot of respect for in the Middle East. I will be ordering the cessation of sanctions against Syria in order to give them a chance at greatness. Oh, what I do for the Crown Prince. The sanctions were brutal and crippling and served as an important function, nevertheless, at the time. But now it's their time to shine. It's their time to shine. We're taking them all off, and they're going to have, I think they're going to have, based on the people and the spirit and everything else that I'm hearing about. So I say good luck, Syria. Show us something very special like they've done, frankly, in Saudi Arabia. Okay? They're going to show us something special.
Wow. Wow.
Well, this is a different approach.
Boy.
It's more business deal making, anything else. I think he just put the Crown Prince in his pocket. But
interesting.
Well, you know, it's hard to talk about this because you can almost hear the people who hate Trump yelling back at you. But the point is, this is diplomacy. This is raw diplomacy, and it's working.
So different from the last administration and the Barack Obama apology tour. That it's just so different.
He runs to the problem set from it. And so anyway, bringing them all together on a business deal, which kind of puts them in a little bit of a bind, because if they want to go about their ideology and their philosophy of life, they could lose the business deal.
Yeah.
So it's kind of an interesting time, to say the least. Okay, so much for that.
All right. Well, you know, in the world of Airbnbs, you got a lot of options these days.
Yeah.
And boy, here is another. Check it out.
A man has turned a 1970s private jet into a tiny home and listed it on Airbnb. Aviation enthusiasts are sure to love the original cockpit, maintained as it was from the days it flew oil executives to and from countries and meetings. The unique home is complete with 2 bedrooms, sleep 2 adults and 2 children, and has a fully functioning kitchen, a bathroom with a shower, and outdoor seating area. The passion project belongs to an Airbnb host in Wales who acquired half of the 1970s Hawker jet in December 2023 from an acquaintance who deals in oddities. After being decommissioned in the 1980s, it was cut in half and had the wings removed for ease of transport. The owner spent 7 months and nearly $120,000 transforming the jet into a rental property. Available for $190 per night, it is a pet-friendly property and has only been on Airbnb for 3 weeks, but is already at 70% occupancy.
What? What say you?
Well, it's cool.
Yeah.
I said earlier, there was an article out quite some time ago. What do you do with all these planes and mothballs down in Phoenix and around?
Right, the boneyard.
The boneyard.
Yeah.
And so you take some of these big airliners and you cut the wings off and you put the fuselages together like a spokes on a wheel. Yeah. And the hub would be like an entertainment area or some kind of, and then you rent them out.
Absolutely.
You know, so yeah, it's kind of cool. I've seen people take 707s, turn them into a house and stuff like that. You know?
Yeah, you know, there's one up in Portland we've seen online once in a while. Yeah.
All right, Psalm 16, verse 8 is a great scripture for you on this birthday of Israel.
Yeah.
I have set the Lord always before me. I have set the Lord before me always, because he is at my right hand. I shall not be shaken. How do you survive a spiritual earthquake? Be on the right side of the Lord. All right, we'll be right back.
If you enjoy the Dove TV, tell a friend or family member. If they can't receive a signal, the Dove streams worldwide on Roku and Apple TV, plus online at thedove.us. Help encourage someone who needs hope. Spread the word about the Dove TV.
An American tradition like no other. The Central Point Wild Road Pro Rodeo, presented by Country Financial. It's set to be the ride of a lifetime.
This isn't just any rodeo. This is where legends are made. See many of the nation's top 20 cowboys and cowgirls compete on National Finals rodeo stuff right here at home of the only 100-point bull ride. Barrels, bareback, broncs, tie-down roping, team roping, and of course, bulls. Mark your calendars. The Wild Road Pro Rodeo hits the expo in Central Point May 15th through the 17th.
Finding that next great series to binge watch is fun, but your neck, shoulders, and body don't count that as me time. Hi, I'm Tamara Miller, owner of Organic Element Spa, and I invite you to put down the remote, get off the couch, and schedule yourself some real me or we time with your favorite service, like one of our many massages, couples massages, or facials. Your health, safety, and comfort are always top priority with us at Organic Element Spa. We can't wait to see you. Book your appointment today.
Clean water is essential to your good health. Ultra Pure Purified Water has been delivering purified, healthy drinking water to the Rogue Valley since 1995. Locally owned and family run, Ultra Pure Purified Water uses a multi-stage process ensuring your delivery of water is 99.8% pure, so your family stays hydrated and healthy. Online at ultrapurewaterinc.com or call 541-734-0828. 541-734-0828.
At Kelly's Automotive Service,
being good stewards of what God has entrusted to us
is at the core of our business.
We believe what we do matters.
Every interaction, every transaction is another opportunity
to bring Christ's values into the marketplace.
If you're a technician who wants to be part of something bigger,
or just looking for a new shop to bring your vehicle,
we would love to meet you.
We're Kelly's Automotive Service,
where we service your vehicle,
but take care of you.
I simply had no options. I was just getting more scared and more frustrated and would wake up with dreams, seeing like a movie screen my funeral. All I know to do is seek God with all my heart. That's all I know to do. I got out there and I said, God, I need to know, what do you have to say about this? It was just me and God.
Watch the 700 Club Wednesday morning at 11 on the Dove TV. You're watching the Dove TV, encouraging and informative for Redding and the North State. Seen on KRDT 23, KDRC 26, Channel 16, Channel 29, and these Dove affiliates.
Welcome to Focus Today. I'm your host, Perry Atkinson, and of course, all eyes and minds and thoughts and discussions on tariffs these days and what they are doing. And then that results into the overall economic condition, not only of the United States, but literally around the world. We heard just within hours the lifting of some tariffs actually causes the stock market to jump 1,000 points. Well, perfect timing, and always an honor to have with us. Professor Michael Busler's with us. He's a public policy analysis and professor of finance at Stockton University in New Jersey. He does have his own website. That's muckrack.com/Michael Busler. And there is a picture of that landing page, and it's a good way to communicate with him and stay in touch with all of his analysis. Professor, good to see you, friend. How are you?
I'm doing well, Perry. Thanks for having me. As you know, it's always my pleasure to be here.
Well, you're the man. When I grow up, I want to be like you. Someday I hope to pass your class.
You will.
All right. Well, where do we start with this? Did you ever think the use of tariffs would cause such an uproar globally?
Well, we've never seen the use of tariffs quite like this before. So once they were instituted, I did expect some turmoil. But let me start off by saying I'm a free market economist. I don't think there should be any tariffs on any products by any countries at any time. It really fouls up the whole system by putting on tariffs. Most governments and countries believe that there should be at least some tariff. So typically, a couple of percent, 2.5% was typically what some of the countries had. So here's the problem. Really, for the last 4 decades or so, there's been a very large imbalance of trade. In other words, we purchase far more from foreign countries, which means money flows out of the country, than they purchase from us, which means less money flowing into the country. So we have a huge negative balance of trade. This year, before Trump's actions, it would have been about $850 to $900 billion, and that's wealth flowing out of the country. So the first question is, why do we have this? Well, although the U.S. places fairly small tariffs on just about everything, every other country in the world places large tariffs. From China, they import automobile car parts. We charge a 2.5% tariff. Again, this was all before Trump. They charge a 25% tariff on some of our auto products, a 50% tariff. So we're not going to sell many cars in China. Even the European Union, we charge them a 2.5% tariff. They charge us a 10% tariff, and then have a value-added tax added on to that. The result of that is, how many Chevrolets and Fords do you see in Paris and Berlin? You don't see any. India, on motorcycles, they charge 100% tariff. So there's no way we're going to sell any of our products. So President Trump said, we need to fix this right away. And I don't want to convene a bipartisan committee and have debates for the next couple of months and town hall meetings and drag this on for a year. I want this fixed immediately. So what did President Trump do? He went to all the countries and said, listen, I want to renegotiate all these trade deals. Well, every country said, we're not in any hurry to do that. They're very favorable to us. So Trump is a business person. You have a reluctant trading partner. What you want to do is deal from a position of strength and create a sense of urgency. So President Trump said, I'm putting high tariffs on everyone. Now, some of these countries that depend on selling, China included, depend on selling a lot of their output to the U.S. If we place these high tariffs, their countries would go into recession. So immediately, they all came to the bargaining table. It took about 5-6 weeks to get the first deal. First deal was with England. The goal is to have a 10% tariff on products they bring into our country, which again, I think is high, but President Trump views the tariffs as a source of revenue. So he wants more than just a small tariff. More importantly, England will now only place a 10% tariff on U.S. products sold there. This opens up the market to all of our manufacturers, especially the agriculture market, the beef industry. Well, now England will be opened to U.S. manufacturers. That will increase our exports. Every deal that Trump will make, and again, we made a start of a deal with China, the same kind of thing. We're going to lower the tariffs, and we expect them to lower the tariffs even further, which they did. What's going to happen is, within the next month or two, you'll see 20, 30, 40 countries striking deals with the U.S., which will open foreign markets to U.S. manufacturers. And these markets have been closed for decades. Even Canada. You know, Canada says, well, we'll let you sell to Wisconsin. We'll let you sell some of your dairy products. But once you get up to a certain quota, we're going to place very high tariffs, 100% tariffs. So Wisconsin sold to them what they could, but they were limited. The goal is to get rid of all those quotas, to get rid of, with China, some of their currency manipulation. The idea is to have foreign markets open to U.S. manufacturers. That will encourage more growth in the U.S. Now, there's one exception, and every country is going to have an exception. The U.S. says there are products that are vital to national security: steel, aluminum, copper, medical supplies. Those products have to be made in the U.S. So I'm putting, why aren't they made now? Because it's cheaper to make it somewhere else and bring it in here. And our steel industry, our aluminum industry is essentially dying. So Trump now will place a 25% tariff on imported steel, aluminum, copper, medical supplies. That'll raise the price. So now it's cheaper to make it in the U.S. That manufacturing will come back to the U.S. Now, somebody will say back to me, well, okay, I understand that, but aren't consumers going to be paying more for those products? And the answer is yes. However, what Trump will do is he will vastly increase the supply of energy. That will bring energy prices down. Energy prices count for about 7% of the consumer price index directly and almost 30% indirectly because it's cost to produce goods and things. They'll bring down the cost of energy, which he's already starting to do. So any inflationary impact from the tariffs will be more than offset by lower energy prices. And in the end, we'll end up with more manufacturing in the U.S. The inflation rate will come down. Just yesterday, they announced the inflation rate is down to 2.3%. That's the best it's been since February of 2021. And we'll have an economy that's set for growth. One last point. To keep the manufacturing down, you make something in China or Vietnam, they pay their workers $1 an hour. We pay our workers $25, $30 an hour. So how are we ever going to get the cost down? The answer is when we bring the manufacturing back, it won't be a labor-intensive operation. In other words, it won't be an assembly line with a whole lot of people. It'll be a capital-intensive operation, which means we'll have robots, automation, artificial intelligence. And by doing that, they'll be able to keep the cost down. Somebody says to me, well, how do you know that's going to work? Do you have any examples of that? And I say, yes. Go into a fast food restaurant. I took my 2 grandkids into McDonald's last Saturday. They were anxious to go. They like the food and stuff. But when I went in there was a touch screen in front of me. I ordered the meal on a touch screen, and I paid on the touch screen. Instead of McDonald's employing 8 to 10 people, they now only need 3 or 4 people with the capital. So McDonald's has reacted, and other fast food restaurants have reacted to higher minimum wages and labor shortages, driving up labor costs by replacing labor with capital. And that's what manufacturers in the U.S. are going to do to keep the manufacturing cost as low as possible.
Wow. No, that was great. That was an excellent explanation. Do you think most of your colleagues in the economic forecasting business see what you just said?
No. The vast majority disagree with me. I'm not sure if they're looking at things objectively. You know, some people just hear Trump and they automatically say it's no good. What they're saying is the inflationary impact of the tariffs will be much greater than what I believe. And therefore, they say, even Chairman Powell of the Federal Reserve said, I can't cut interest rates yet, even though the economy is slowing, because I'm afraid of the inflationary impact of the tariffs. But if you look at the numbers, it's not much of an inflationary impact. Why do I say that? Our economy is roughly $30 trillion. We import about $3 trillion. So even if the price of the imports go up by 10%, which they won't, all the tariff won't be passed on to consumers, some will, some won't. But even if it goes up that much, $300 billion, that only puts a 1% increase in inflation. Bringing energy prices down will more than offset that. And you'll end up with, as I said, low inflation, better growth, and a more secure America. I think as time goes on and the economists see that, hey, this is really working, I think they may change their view.
Okay, so in the meantime, there's another thing that seems to be developing. President Trump sees that we need to not only bring a lot of manufacturing back, and key manufacturing, steel, aluminum, and other things like that. But when you look over at China, which is primarily an export state, okay, and you put tariffs on them, you just economically brought them to their knees. They have to come to the table, don't they?
Clobbered them. And I've been saying this since April 2nd when President Trump put this on. People said, well, China's never going to come to the table. China's economy before this was doing poorly. Why? They had a big real estate development boom. They wanted everybody to have good housing. It was all financed by debt. All of a sudden, it's okay to finance by debt, but keep in mind you have interest payments that you have to make. Well, once their economy slowed down, there wasn't enough income generated to make all those interest payments. Real estate prices in China have fallen about 30% since their peak. and their economy is slowing down. You add on to that, Trump put 140%, 45% tariff. Roughly 5% of China's output is imported into the U.S. Suddenly that all stopped. Now, China, they can't have that go on. People are getting laid off. Factories are getting shut down. So I knew China would come to the table at some point. It turned out it was a little quicker than even I thought. But they need us. Every country needs us more than we need them. And that puts us in a bargaining position of strength.
So one other quick 30,000-foot view. So if you look down on this from high up, the United States is probably the only country in the world that's capable of totally self-sustaining. Every other country is dependent on somebody else. Or am I misreading it?
No, the U.S., there's some things we'd have a little trouble with. Some of these rare earth minerals, although we signed a deal with Ukraine to try to get around that. But virtually everything else the U.S. needs to survive and maintain the standard of living, we can produce ourselves. Why don't we? Because it's cheaper to produce it somewhere else. Companies have been going there, producing it at a lower cost, then they can sell it at a lower price. And consumers said, I like that. I like the lower price. But if all of the imports went away, we'd still be able to sustain ourselves. And that's the most important thing, which puts us in a position of strength. Again, they need us more than we need them.
All right, let me take a quick break. Check out Professor Busler's website, muckrack.com/Michael Busler. There's where you can connect with him and take advantage of his analysis. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Put your gold in an envelope, mail it. Hopefully you get a check. No. Father and son jewelry, bring your gold in. We weigh it, we check it, we make you the offer.
Or turn your something old into something new. Whether it's an idea, a picture, or a piece you want to duplicate, we can melt it down and make it for you.
If you find your perfect piece in store, trade your something old for something new, and you always get a little extra.
Visit Father and Son Jewelry, 5 generations of family in Medford.
Go where the wild runs deep. At Hellgate Jetboat Excursions, you feel the power of the mighty Rogue River as you take in the sights and sounds of nature, journey through Hellgate Canyon, and adventure through the breathtaking wilderness. Enjoy brunch or dinner on the open-air deck of the exclusive Hellgate River Lodge, and end your adventure with our exciting jetboat spins. It's a memory in the making with family and friends. Book your adventure at Hellgate.com. Hellgate Jetboat Excursions, where adventure runs wild.
You feel most alive where you feel most at home. And this is living. Bobcat, the company that changed the way the world works, is coming home with a quality compact tractor built to match your quality of life. This isn't work you have to do. It's work you get to do. So get it done in a tractor that's all you. See your dealer or visit bobcat.com.
As the world watches from the outside,
It's a big diplomatic tug of war here in the Middle East.
go inside the story with Jerusalem Dateline.
Israeli archaeologists are talking about a discovery that could change the thinking about the Temple Mount.
Join CBN Jerusalem Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell and get the biblical perspective on the events shaping the world.
What starts in Israel then ends up going to other places.
Watch Jerusalem Dateline.
Weeknights at 9:30 on the Dove TV.
All right, welcome back. Always an honor to have with us Professor Michael Busler. He's a public policy analysis, and he's a professor of finance there at Stockton University in New Jersey. He does have his own website where you can track his analysis, and that's muckrack.com/Michael Busler. And there's a picture of the landing page. You know, Professor, the president's been quick to go to a TV camera and a microphone to talk about people who are coming into the country and starting new businesses and bringing with it billions of dollars. We've seen quite a few announcements. Yesterday in Saudi Arabia, he gave the figure of $600 billion of exchange business, $142 billion of it in an arms deal with Saudi Arabia. Altogether, the president's claiming $8 trillion in new private sector commitments since returning to office. What does that mean to our economy?
It's very, very good news. So economies like to attract foreign investment. They have so much capital on their own, but if they can get more capital from foreign investments, especially in a capital-intensive economy, that allows much more growth. Apple's about to spend $500 billion. Those software companies are about to spend $500 billion. All of that coming in means more investment, more factories being built, more businesses being started, more jobs being created, and more economic growth for the economy, which in the end improves the standard of living for all Americans. We should welcome all of this foreign investment. And as companies get tied to you economically, they become more friendlier to you because you don't want to get in any kind of a conflict with somebody where you're tied to them economically. So all of this is very good and very positive, and we're already starting to see some results. We'll start adding to growth probably in the next month or two.
So as these companies move in, they're coming from other places. I mean, they're maybe most of them coming from China. They decided to set up shop, Apple being one of them. So when a company leaves a country like China and comes home and they set up shop, does China still have ownership of their intellectual property?
Well, that was part of the problem. They're not supposed to take our intellectual property in the first place, but the way their rules were set up, they essentially had access to that. Now, you can't take any of that away from them, and they don't follow our rules or even international rules that you can't use somebody else's intellectual property. So you can't take anything away from them, but going forward, no more. So we're not going to give you any more of our trade secrets and our property that helps you to do things. We're keeping it all for ourselves.
That seems to me would be a side incentive for a for a company now to come back home. I mean,
yes. Yeah. And Trump is also, depending on what happens with this tax bill that's going through, recall back in 2017, Trump lowered the corporate tax rate from roughly 5% down to 21%. He's now saying, and again, I haven't seen what finally is going to get passed, but he's now saying any company that manufactures somewhere outside the country and brings manufacturing back, he's going to lower the tax rate to 15%. Okay. Again, that's more of an incentive. Trump wants an incentive economy. He wants people to work more overtime, so he's not going to tax overtime anymore. So he's looking to create incentives for people to do more and work harder.
Do you see the corporate rate coming down?
I don't think so in the short run. Now, I've been a big advocate of lowering corporate and personal tax rates down to 15%. I've been pushing a 15% single rate tax on all income for personal, on all income above a livable minimum with no deductions for anything. Mm-hmm. And I would also like to see a 15% corporate tax rate and a 15% rate on capital gains. In the long term, that would add a lot of growth. And I think we didn't end up, you might lose a little tax revenue in the beginning, but after a year or two, tax revenue would soar. So your question was, do I see it coming down to 15%? I don't see that coming anytime soon, but again, I think it's a great idea.
With the big deal recently announced out of the UK, which is a foreign ally, do you see other countries, maybe Japan, South Korea, following suit? I mean, is there an incentive for them to get in line here?
There certainly is. And what the agreement with the UK, I think, set a roadmap for how all of these agreements will look. 10% reciprocal tariffs, we charge 10, you charge 10, applies to everything except certain special products. So each country will have something that they want to sort of carve out. We want to carve out the steel, aluminum, copper, medical supplies. We want that tariff to be higher. Other countries will have certain things that they want. But the basic framework is 10% reciprocal tariffs, no currency manipulation, which China does, and we're going to have to negotiate that. But I think other countries are going to follow the lead of Great Britain, and the countries you mentioned are on the verge of signing. Japan, South Korea, you mentioned India, but India is on the verge of signing. And when that happens, you'll see a flood of these things happening. That'll be very positive news for the stock market, and you'll see stock prices going up. Let me just add one point, if I can, about stock prices. Right after President Trump was elected, people asked me, what do you think about the stock market? And I said, if I was you, I'd put everything you can into the stock market. So they did that. And then in April, the stock market tanked. And they said, what did you tell me to do? I just lost 15% of value. What a horrible thing this is. And here's what I said to every one of them. Don't look at your portfolio until the summer. Don't look at it until the summer. By the summer, it'll be way up above what it was before Trump came into office. In the meantime, we're going to have these fluctuations. Every time something bad happens, the stock market crashes. Every time something good happens, it goes way up. So don't look at the day-to-day. Come back in a month or two. Take a look at the stock market. You'll be very happy.
Is President Trump, Professor, correct in criticizing Chairman Powell for not lowering the rates?
So in my view, Chairman Powell has been the worst Federal Reserve chair since Arthur Burns in the 70s. Why do I say that? He gets into office in 2018. Congress passes a tax cut. The economy should soar. For no reason, he raises interest rates 4 times. We ended up with 3% growth anyway, but it could have been much higher. 2019, he realized he made a mistake and lowered interest rates 4 times. The biggest mistake. From January 2021 to June of 2022, he kept interest rates near zero, kept the bond buying program going. Inflation went from 1.4 at the end of 2020 up to 9% in 2022. The Federal Reserve sat by and did nothing. Second major mistake. Third major mistake. Finally, in June 22, they start raising interest rates. They raised them till July of 2023. They should have raised them a couple more times. We'd have been rid of the inflation problem. Instead, he stops. Inflation goes down to 3%. His target is 2. Goes down to 3%. He stops raising interest rates. That allows inflation to linger. Finally, by September of 2024, the inflation rate is getting down under 2.5%. He didn't have to do anything, and the inflation would have gone down to the 2% we wanted. So what does he do? He cuts interest rates 3 times. Inflation goes back up to 2.9%, and now it's coming down. So your original question, do I think President Trump's criticism of Jerome Powell is valid? I think yes. Right now, GDP growth slowed in the fourth quarter of last year. It was negative in the first quarter of this year, mostly because people were buying imported goods. But still, it was negative, and the inflation rate has come down. Yesterday, they announced it's down to 2.3%. The Fed should begin cutting interest rates immediately to stop any further decline in growth and to try to spur the economy. There's no worry about inflation. Now, most economists don't agree with that. They say, well, tariffs are going to cause this and that. I don't think so. And I think Powell should start to gently drop interest rates over the next 4, 5, 6 months, go a quarter of a point 3 or 4 times. So I would agree with President Trump.
You had to look for it, but it was there, and that is that inflation's cooling. So
down to 2.3%. It's the lowest it's been since February 2021. The goal is 2%. We're just about there, but the economy is slowing. So gradually lower interest rates, stop worrying about inflation, will bring energy prices down. The effect of tariffs will be relatively small, and things will be much better if interest rates would start to come down. So I agree with President Trump.
Okay, I recommend you to be Fed chair. I'll put your name in. How's that? I wanted one other quick question, Professor. It was headlines for quite a while. And what's your take now on the overall supply chain of things?
So all of these tariffs will disrupt the supply chain. I hear small business people saying, look, I get a lot of goods from China. What am I going to do? So I tell you what I say to them. You're an entrepreneur. You're supposed to be creative. You have to figure out how to source these products locally from American manufacturers. If it's not there, you have to help them to create it. So there'll be a couple of bumps in the road with supply chains, But, give it 6, 8, 10 months, everything will be all smoothed out and will be much better positioned for long-term economic growth with low inflation.
All right. So for companies looking to buy products now that would be increased with a tariff, is your advice is to wait?
Yeah, I wouldn't panic. A lot of people are panicking, saying, well, I better buy this before the tariff goes way up. Whatever your normal buying patterns are, I would continue them. I wouldn't worry about the tariffs. Most of the tariff talk that President Trump does is for negotiation purposes. He doesn't want to see all these high tariffs on things, but he wants to create a sense of urgency because these people won't come to the bargaining table. Creates a sense of urgency. Everybody comes to the bargaining table, and before any disaster hits, everything seems to be worked out okay. So I wouldn't panic with anything. Just go about your normal buying habits, and everything will turn out to be fine.
Thanks for your time, friend. You always give it to us. Let me say to our viewers and listeners, Professor Busler has a website, muckrack.com/Michael Busler. There's a picture of the landing page where you can check in for his analysis there. Thank you, Professor, for your time. I'm learning a lot. Someday I'll pass.
Always my pleasure, Perry. Look forward to doing it again.
All right. See you later.
Black Flag Armory offers top brand affordable rifles, shotguns, handguns, and gear. We also offer an array of classes emphasizing safety, self-defense, and accuracy. We strive to provide the absolute best possible experience when buying a firearm. Family friendly for every skill level, Black Flag Armory in Midford and Grants Pass. Online at blackflagarms.com or 541-499-0779. 541-499-0779.
Come fall in love with Northridge Senior Living, where contemporary sunlit interiors meet old world elegance. Walk through our lovely hallways and enjoy the fun staff-led activities. Forge lasting friendships with other residents and our exceptional caregivers. Dine in style. Gather near the fireplace under breathtaking chandeliers. Our reasonably priced apartments are spacious with private balconies. Northridge is Christian-owned and operated, pet-friendly, and only 2 blocks from Asante Rogue Regional Medical Center. On-site 24/7 in-home care is available. We also offer senior adult daycare where your loved one can spend the day with us and the evenings with you. Northridge Senior Living, your home.
Welcome back, and always a delight to have with us Mark Meckler. Mark is just a special friend and really on top of everything. He's one of the, I call a frontline warrior. He's a political pundit, he's an attorney, a business executive. He's the president and the co-founder of the Convention of States, which is the largest nationwide movement seeking to call for a first ever Article 5 Convention of States. By all of that is wrapped up in a little booklet that he provides, and you can get those by going to conventionofstates.com, and there's the picture of the website, conventionofstates.com, and you can check that out there. Mark, good to see you, buddy. How are you?
I'm great. It's good to be with you.
Good. Where's your sidekick Trigger? I don't see him walking around back there.
Well, I got a couple of very large dogs that could almost fit the saddles, and they're sitting right behind me.
Good. Well, a lot to talk to you about. What do you think about this Middle East trip and all the stuff that's going on in the last 48 hours?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to know how it all shakes out, but what I love about it is that President Trump continues to be a disruptor. He does the things people say he shouldn't do. He accomplishes things that people say he can't do. and he mixes it up in a way that no American president ever has. I think what he does is he's using his talents as a business executive, as a real estate developer, not as a politician or a bureaucrat or a diplomat. He goes out there and he mixes it up with these folks. He creates what a lot of people around him call strategic uncertainty. And so far, the results from that have been quite good.
All right. So he seems to be leading with business deals in the Middle East in order just to create friendship and relationship. It seems to be working. There's a couple questions. Syria and Qatar. What do you think about that?
Okay, I mean, I'll start at a baseline that I don't like the Syrian leadership and I don't like the Qatari leadership. The Qataris are about as two-faced as a country could possibly be. Mm-hmm. They play a power broker in the Middle East. They are the prime funders for Hamas. So they've been in the middle of terrorism for a very long time. But we also have a base in Qatar. So it's very messy. I do think it's important for the president to be there and try and figure out all of this stuff on his own. In Syria, we have a problem because you have radical Islamists that have now taken over the country. They are backed by Erdogan, the radical Islamist leader of Turkey. So what happens there is difficult to say, but I do think Trump, what he's attempting to do is bring them into the correct orbit and perhaps into the Abraham Accords. I think that's the ultimate goal.
Okay. In the meantime, there's a common verbiage that at the end of the day, Iran is not allowed to have a nuke. I don't care who he's talking to, what country, that's a repeated theme. That tells me that as he walks around, especially with Saudi Arabia and others that might come into the accord, that something is brewing to take out the nukes in Iran. And I'm not a warmonger, but it just feels like that's on the table.
I really think, from my perspective, that's the only choice. Anything short of that is essentially going to be a repeat of the Obama deal with the Iranians, the JCPOA, that allowed them to keep their nuclear program, allowed them to continue enriching uranium for quote-unquote civilian purposes. That's ridiculous. This is one of the most oil-rich places on the face of the earth. They don't need uranium for civilian purposes. They don't need a nuclear program. I hope that that's the red line. I worry about whether it will be. I'll be frank, Steve Witkoff as a negotiator in the Middle East, I don't trust him. He's taken a lot of money from Arab countries. I think he's a little too cozy with the Arab countries. So we'll have to see what happens. I hope they hold that red line. And it's not just, by the way, on getting nukes. It should be on dismantling the entire nuclear program in Iran. I think it's going to take military action to get that done.
So do you think, with all this going on, obviously Iran's buying time with all this and taking advantage of that. At what point does Israel say, sorry, Mr. President, we're out of time?
Yeah, I think they're going to do it at the time and place of their choosing. And one of the things that I think Trump is trying to do is he's trying to say that he won't necessarily be involved in that that's going to be up to Israel. I think I heard him recently say Israel has to look out for Israel's interests. So that seems like permission to me. I don't see any other way. The Iranians are not going to voluntarily give up their nuclear program. And I want to caution folks, people see this as sort of black and white, either or. In other words, either you don't take out the Iranian nuclear program, or you have all-out war. You take it out, you drop a few bombs on their nuclear sites, and you have an all-out war. I don't believe that's the case. I believe that the Iranian nuclear program would be destroyed. That would not cause a broader war. It would weaken Iran substantially. It might lead to a more positive regime change in Iran, but I don't believe the choice is between taking out their nuclear facilities and war.
Okay. All right. So let me come back home with some things here. As we watch, and I don't say this with glee, it's just obvious observation, and that is we're watching a political party unravel in front of our eyes and auger into the ground, maybe not recovering. And yet, as they go down, I'm talking about the Democrats, they are exposing something that they've been involved in their sneaky plan for a lot of years. This really opens up the door to one of your passions, and that is term limits. What's the feel?
Yeah, look, I agree with what you're saying about the Democrats. I'm actually stunned. They're saying the quiet part out loud now. I mean, essentially, they're opposed to everything that's good and just and right. And I'm not talking about my standards. I'm talking on 80-20 issues where 80% of the American people agree there should be term limits. There should be a balanced budget. We should secure our borders. We should send illegal immigrants home. The Democrats are against all those things, to the extent they've even got to the point where they're now assaulting ICE agents in New Jersey. I'm talking about congressional Democrats. I think Some of them are going to be charged and arrested. And so I think that the appetite right now, more than ever, is in favor of term limits, of that these people got to go. They've been there too long. And by the way, I want to be fair. I'm an equal sort of opportunity insulter of Congress. The same is true for the Republicans. I saw a post from the Republican House caucus yesterday saying that it's time for the Republicans in the public to get off the sidelines. I don't know who these people are talking to, but they're not talking to anybody I know. We've been off the sidelines for a long time. You've been off the sidelines. The public actually gave them the House and the Senate and the presidency. It seems like that it's the Republicans in Congress that are sitting a little too much on the sidelines.
Okay, couple things here. Do you see the Republican base expanding in the House and the Senate in 26?
I mean, I think if Republicans play their cards correctly, absolutely. But I don't have a lot of faith in Republicans' ability to do that. You know, Republican Party is notoriously good at snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. They need to get some stuff done. They need to take some strong positions. And it seems like only a few in the caucus are willing to do that. I understand they're in a tenuous position because they have such a slim majority. So there's only so much they can get done. But it also seems like they're not taking strong positions. And we have Republicans peeling away from their own base, as I said with that quote I just gave you about they're actually blaming the Republican electorate. So I worry about it. I think that their advantage, their structural advantage, is that Democrats are so completely out of touch with the American people. So if Republicans just stick to the common sense, not extreme talking points, if they talk about reforming government, tax cuts, regulation cuts, securing the border, removing illegal immigrants from the country, if they stick with those things and just play that card, the straight ahead common sense card, I think they do have an opportunity to increase their majority in Congress.
So both parties seem to be suffering from the same disease, and that is they have the radical left and the radical right. I can tell you as a former chairman, this is a serious problem. You know, I mean, both parties are not unified, and you kind of wonder at the end, does the rhino win or is that radical right win?
Yeah, I see this not only at the level of the federal government, where Mike Johnson has a terrible problem holding his caucus together, but I see it in states all over the country where you have people, and I want to be really cautious how I throw about terms. I consider myself very far. I go into some of these caucuses and I talk to some of these Republicans in the states, and they're not willing to take an 80% victory on anything. It's 100% or nothing, and anybody who is in the 20% on any issue becomes a rhino. That's not a strategy for long-term victory. And the way you win is by building coalitions, by building across sort of ideological divides within the party. You build a big tent, as Reagan said, and has been said for so long. And I think we have folks on the fringe, on the outside of both parties, that aren't doing that, and it's damaging both parties' opportunity to lead.
Well, you said that so well, Mark. That's spot on. I don't know where the resolve is, but I think sometimes we Republicans circle the wagons and shoot inward, and we got to be careful about that because this next election is as critical as the past one.
Yeah, I agree with that. And, you know, I see some great leadership out there, being very specific. In Texas, there's a rep by the name of Cody Vasud, and he's as conservative as anybody in the caucus, but he's not running around yelling that everybody who disagrees with him is a rhino, and he manages to cross the lines. I actually think Mike Johnson's doing a very good job, the best that could possibly be done in Congress of doing that. So the leadership does exist out there, principled leaders, but leaders who understand political reality. Politics is about the art of the possible. It's not just about taking a position for clicks and views on the internet.
Recently, Speaker Johnson and Vice President Vance kind of gave a thumbs up for the Convention of States. Is it believable, and does it help?
Yeah, look, I think we've been really blessed. I can't take any credit for this whatsoever. I mean, God has blessed us in the sense that if you look at the administration right now, the people in the administration supporting Convention of States, it's astounding. There's like an entire scaffolding inside the admin. J.D. Vance is a supporter. Caroline Leavitt is a supporter. Ag Secretary Brooke Rollins, SecDef Pete Hegseth, Mike Huckabee. So they're just spread throughout the very high levels of the federal government. Of course, in Congress, you have Mike Johnson, who's the Speaker of the House. We didn't plan for any of this. It's just, 11 years of hard work. getting supporters who rise up through the levels of government. So I do think it helps our position. I was actually in Washington, D.C., meeting with a bunch of folks last week, and I think there is an appetite growing within Washington, D.C. for those who want permanent reform to move forward with the call for a convention of states.
All right, so in this next election, I remember this by experience, and that is having candidates in the 2026 midterm sign a declaration of term limits.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. You know, term limits alone is very popular among the American public. The problem with it is if you have term limits on Congress, but not term limits on bureaucrats and staffers, what we get is a much worse, much more entrenched, and much more powerful deep state. All of those people will be more powerful if you turn Congress and don't turn them. So there is an effort to impose just term limits on Congress. It hasn't passed near as many states as we have. I think they're at 4 or 5 states versus our 19, almost 20. The problem is, again, we do that, we're going to empower the deep state. Things are going to be much worse than ever. The Convention of States effort allows us to put term limits on staffers, bureaucrats, and the judiciary as well. And I think if we're going to do term limits, those things are mandatory so that we don't make the problem worse.
Oh, that's well said. All right, let me take a quick break. By the way, Mark has a wonderful booklet on this, and he'll send them out by the dozens to you. You can go to conventionofstates.com and order the little booklet, and there's a picture of the landing page, and get some sent to you. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back.
The right cleaning company matters. Choose Dust Plus Cleaning and Carpet Care, a family-owned company proudly serving Grants Pass and nearby communities for over 25 years. We're passionate about delivering the best, whether it's carpets, using purified water for no window spots, or carefully washing solar panels. We're committed to superb customer service from start to finish. Radiant spaces from local professionals. Request a free quote today.
The Dove Radio is your 24-hour source for encouragement and information. There's something for everyone. Teaching, news, and music. 3 unique stations in one. Solid Bible teaching from trusted pillars of the faith. Relevant news, information, and talk. Plus contemporary music with a message. Listen to the Dove Radio Network throughout Southern and Central Oregon, on the Dove app, and online at thedove.us. Encouraging and informative wherever you go. The Dove Radio. A ministry moment on the Dove.
Because Christ is in our relationships at home, there should be a new quality to that relationship. It doesn't always happen all at once, but it happens along the way. As we submit ourselves to the Lord, as we should become better husbands and better wives and better parents and more obedient children and better workers and better bosses. Why? Because Christ is in the equation. Christ is everything. The title of this series is Christ Above All. He's more important than anything we've talked about today, to understand that it's all about our relationship with Christ. And here's Paul telling us, you want to honor the Christ that is the center of your life. It's going to affect how you live, how you relate at home, how you relate at work, how you function as parents. Christ is a difference maker.
A ministry moment on the Dove.
Okay, welcome back. Always an honor to have with us Mark Meckler. He's a political analysis attorney and business executive. He's also the president and the co-founder of the Convention of States. He does have a website where you can go to conventionofstates.com and order up a bunch of the booklets called the Article 5 Convention States right there. All right, back to Mark. By the way, Mark, I have to tell you this, the last segment we did, you were being preempted by Trigger in the back, sitting on his back on all 4 in the legs.
He does that from time to time.
Dog lover, I get it. Good stuff. All right, I want to come back to, it seems like the president slowly but surely is winning some of these nonsensical district court battles. What's your take?
This is a very interesting fight. The district courts don't have the authority granted to them by statute, by the Supreme Court. I mean, there's no way, not by Congress, to do the things they've been doing. And so I think this is an important political fight, legal fight, balancing between the branches that actually has to take place in America. I don't know where it's going to come out exactly. Ultimately, the Supreme Court is going to rule on these nationwide injunctions. I think they're a major problem for the United States. I would rather see it not resolved by the Supreme Court. I think it should be resolved by Congress. Congress should decide what authority the courts are supposed to have. That is their job. They created the courts. They define the scope of authority of the courts. And there are ways to fix the problem that are creative. In other words, you could say that it takes 3 or 4 or 5 district courts to issue a nationwide injunction together. You can't just get one judge in one liberal district or one conservative district to issue that. It requires more consensus than that. There needs to be a fix. I'm not convinced the Supreme Court is the right place for that.
Okay, so to unpack that a little bit more, from what I understand, the Congress does have the authority to look at the jurisdiction of the courts and the authority of the court. But the measure of the case itself could get appealed to the Supreme Court. In other words, the specifics of the case could go to the Supreme Court, but the authority and the district jurisdiction of the court can be regulated by Congress. Right?
Yeah, both of those things are correct. Yeah. And to add a little bit of nuance, I mean, the Supreme Court can fill in if Congress doesn't. The Supreme Court has authority over the district courts and can set or limit their jurisdiction to some extent. And so that's what I'm saying. The Supreme Court could step in, could say, hey, we've never given authority. Congress has never given authority for this. So you don't have authority to do these nationwide injunctions. But I think more nuance would be found in a congressional approach. And that would be my preference.
Well, it would be codified more solidly if it went through Congress than going to a court that eventually could get overturned.
Yeah, I agree with that. I just think it's a more solid way to do it. And it's really the constitutional way to do it. This is what the framers intended. The odd part is that the framers didn't intend much about the courts. They didn't have a lot of experience with the federal court system. The Constitution creates only a Supreme Court and such other courts as Congress shall decide. So there really wasn't much of a framework then. We've sort of made it up as we went along. This is a problem that's arisen that's going to have to be dealt with. I actually think the best method is in Congress, but right now it doesn't look like Congress is going to do much of anything about it.
Okay. In the meantime, the president continues to win these things. Let me ask you this. Everybody's arguing, I say everybody, the left is arguing that these people aren't given, the deportees are not given, due process. And they quote the article that says all peoples. And that has to be defined. Is it your opinion that all peoples is all peoples, or is it all citizens of the United States?
Yeah, I would kind of go with the broader definition and say all peoples. I think the question is, what is due process? And if you look at the words, due process is the process that is due under the circumstances. And that's supposed to take into account the totality of all circumstances. I'll give you a very specific example. I've seen it calculated that with 20 million illegal immigrants in the country, if we were to do a 5-minute hearing for each of those illegal immigrants, you would look at over 200 years to do hearings for each of those illegal immigrants. Obviously, that's not possible, plain and simple. So that cannot be the process that's due. And so it is up to governments to decide, our federal government to decide what process is due. And then that could be fought out in the courts. But due process is a very smoky concept, and it is always situational. So I think when people say it is or it isn't due process, they have to look at the circumstances. There is no hard and fast standard.
Is there a forfeiting of the due process when you illegally came in and you broke the laws while you're here before you were given supposedly due process?
Generally in this country, we've always provided some measure of due process to anybody that's inside our borders. This has been true under Republican administrations and Democrat administrations. But again, I think the question you pose goes to, well, what process is due? And I think at the very least, you can say very radically expedited removal from the country is the process that you are due. And that doesn't necessarily mean you sit in front of a magistrate or even an immigration official. It could be simply they file paperwork against you. You could object with paperwork and somebody looks at it and stamps deport on it. And that, in my opinion, would be legitimate due process.
Okay. There's a lot of things going in the right direction, but there still seems to be a moral decay in our country. It's alarming in some ways. I mean, in a lot of ways, but I mean, in some areas, it's becoming alarming. As a believer, how do you balance this? I mean, you're involved in this ugly fight, and at the same time, you're trying to stay clean. No wonder you have big dogs behind you.
You know, for me, Perry, I'm always a glass half full guy. I've been wired that way, but I came to faith. I was saved at 51 years old. I'm 63 now, so I'm a slow learner, but I came to faith and was radically saved. And so my perspective is I know how the story ends. I know who prevails. I know that I've been saved by grace. I know that good news is available to anybody out there who wants to accept salvation. I also know that I have a duty to be in the fight. And in the end, it's not up to me who wins the fight. I don't even know what victory looks like, to be honest with you. It's really up to the Lord who wins and what victory looks like. And the most specific example I can give you, we just had, which is Easter and the resurrection. We go through the crucifixion, which I'm sure to the apostles looked like the end and the worst thing that could possibly happen. And yet it was the beginning of the greatest chapter in all of human history because the crucifixion led to the salvation. So when I look at the situation and say things look dark, I don't know what the Lord is doing. I don't know the Lord's plans. I have to be completely reliant on and obedient to whatever the Lord has in mind. And I just follow along and smile because I do know the end of the story.
Yeah, it's beautifully said. Today is the 77th birthday of Israel. It's pretty significant, don't you think?
Yeah, not only significant, but an actual miracle. And I think I hear this all the time from people, miracles were only for biblical times, and we don't see the great miracles any longer in the modern era. I don't know where folks get that in Scripture, but I do hear this even from believers. And the reality is, if you look at the reconstitution of the state of Israel, the people of Israel returning to the Holy Land in the modern era after thousands of years of exile, that is an extraordinary miracle. And if you look at the history of the country of Israel since its inception, the wars that it's fought against all odds, the way they are surrounded by millions of people who hate them and would like to eradicate them, the way that they've been able to overcome all those odds in what are seemingly impossible war situations, Israel is a modern day miracle, and I look to it for inspiration and guidance constantly. And I have a special attachment. I'm a Jewish Christian. Both sides of my family are Jewish. And so for me, Israel is absolutely the Holy Land as both a Christian and a bloodline Jew.
Wow, well said. So let me ask you this quickly as we head towards the end here. Israel is... like you said, it's a miracle that it still exists today and all the things that are going on. And we seem to be supporting Israel a whole lot better than the previous administration. Do you see any daylight between America and Israel today?
I mean, I see a lot of daylight between Democrats and Israel. I mean, it seems now at this point, the majority of Democrats are anti-Israel. Certainly, the majority of Democrats in Congress are anti-Israel. They're attacking John Fetterman, a powerful Democrat senator, because he's pro-Israel. That's the main reason. So, yeah, I think we've come to a point in our country. Unfortunately, it used to be Democrats and Republicans were united in their support of Israel, but we have a schism in this country. So I worry about this. At the federal government level, I think Trump is a wholehearted Israel supporter. He's not always going to do what Israel wants. It's very important to remember that we are the United States of America. Those are our interests. We are America first. But our interests are well aligned with Israel. And so I think at the federal government level today, there's a lot of alignment. But out in the public, and certainly with the Democratic Party, there is a major schism that has developed.
Yeah. Are you surprised at the rise of anti-Semitism?
I'm not only surprised, Perry, this is the first time in my life as a Jew that I feel threatened in my own country. I mean, I know there's always been anti-Semitism out there. There will always be idiots who have one form of racial bias or another, and I've heard it in my lifetime. But it hasn't been bad. But when I go on the internet now and I see, especially on the right, what I consider sort of mainstream characters on the right spouting insane anti-Semitic nonsense, yeah, I'm surprised by that. And again, for the first time in my life, I'm genuinely worried about that.
Yeah. Thank you, Mark. You're a blessing. Thank you. Thank you. Let me say to our viewers and listeners, check out the website, conventionofstates.com. Order up the booklet, Article 5 Convention, and click on that. They send them out in packages. I'll let you know. I'm getting low, but I'm not quite out yet, so I'll keep you.
Let us know for sure. We'll get them to you.
I know. Here they come, about the size of your dog.
Exactly.
Thank you, Mark. You're just an inspiration. Thanks for what you do, and stay in the fight, buddy.
Guaranteed. By the way, these are the dogs in the background. That's Winston and Doc.
Winston and Doc.
Yeah, Doc is the black and white one who matches the couch. Winston is brown and white, and they are both great names.
Okay.
Winston's 120 pounds and only 7 months old, so I'm not sure what I'm getting myself into.
Oh, man. So you buy dog food by the ton?
Pretty much, yeah. We have the dump truck deliver it on the front porch.
All right, good stuff. Thanks, Mark. God bless you, pal.
God bless you, Perry. Thanks.
An American tradition like no other. The Central Point Wild Road Pro Rodeo, presented by Country Financial. It's set to be the ride of a lifetime.
This isn't just